We're live. Hi, everyone. It's the new art agents on the new platform with Rachel and Melanie at the helm. Rachel and Melanie, how are you going? Oh, excellent. And we didn't do our intros properly. We should do it again. And it's a Kate Mila Felcher from me. Howdy. I, I think because it's a new platform, I forgot what I was supposed to do. Well, okay. Well, I'll take over. We're here and we're live, and that's the main thing. So it's a year in review. So 2024. And it's a weird one because 2025 has been such a crazy start. So we're going to have to spill it over onto that because we have, well, sad news, that Ray Bustos lost his home in the fires. I'm not sure what that district is. It starts with an A. Do you guys know? Because I'm not from America. I just get glimpses of it. Do you know what? I know that one of them was called Palisades or something, but Ray was from somewhere with an A in it, if anyone knows what that is. Anyway, yeah, maybe someone will write it down. Yeah, 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 yeah. He doesn't have another house. And I've seen him on screen, and it's a real lived-in house. It's a house that has, it's a home. And you can definitely see that it's not, when you see a celebrity home, it's just pristine, and you know that someone's coming in and cleaning it every single day. And it just looks like you could leave it for a year and it'll always look the same. Whereas Ray's has that treasure of a family life in it. You can see all mismatched stuff. It's what any home looks like after a while. So it was really sad to see that. So we put a GoFundMe at the bottom of the page for Ray. I've already had a look in the GoFundMe and stuff, and he needs the help. A house is no longer a house that you would buy in the 70s. It's not that time anymore. So that's going to be really tough. I can't even imagine what that would be like. That would be just horrific.
Yeah,
So, and
and we
also
also
one of
had
our,
one of our
yeah,
uh,
go ahead, Melanie. You
one of
go
our
ahead.
AOS students also was affected by the fire, and both of those links to their GoFundmes are in the description if you guys want to support them. But Valerie is an AOS student who I think
Yeah,
she had just moved to LA, or she had recently moved, to pursue her dream, and
yeah.
the fire has
What a
definitely
start to,
affected her.
yeah, what a start to the dream.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So there's Val. I was a shock to see that, wasn't it? I was really, when you get, it's rare to get a shock when you're comfortable in your house, and then that was a big shock because we announced it on Discord that Ray had lost his, and then Val said, "Me too,"
Yeah,
Yeah, that was crazy. I
and
didn't
yeah,
expect that.
that
yeah.
was crazy.
I got
Yeah.
that like pit in the back of my throat feeling. I was just like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, no, you don't know what to say. Well,
Mm-hmm.
GoFundMe is how you say it. Go in there, even if you haven't got any cash or anything, just support any way you can, share it
Mm-hmm.
like we're doing here, things like that. You can always help. Money's not the big thing. It's thinking about people and helping them whatever way you can. I mean, I'm always impressed when I see people just rolling up their sleeves and helping people clear out furniture and stuff. I mean, that's really putting your back to it, your
Yeah,
back to the wheel.
yeah,
So you can always do something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's have a look. Yeah, like I say, money's not the thing, but it helps. So that's the only way I can help from this distance. But and like we're doing here, so share that link as much as you can, guys. All
yeah,
right, so there's 2025 started. We'll have a look at 2024,
yeah,
and I have here a bunch of stuff from the AOS students. So the main thing here is about the AOS year. So let's have a look here. That was the joyful idea of it before we got all the terrible news. Was we just go straight into that? But we can't
yeah.
we can't ignore
Yeah,
what's
Ray
happening
was
in this.
like, he was like the first class I took that was like where you're talking to the teacher kind of thing. It wasn't just like watching lecture videos on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it just had like an impact on me. He's a really good teacher. Like I
Always
learned
been.
anatomy from him, and he's very passionate about that. He's taught a lot of people. And just like I don't know, it's like it hurts when you see like bad things happen to good people, and I'm like, ugh, I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, me too. I learned most of my anatomy from Ray, and I learned how to simplify it through Steve Houston and Glenn Vilppo. So those three guys were really pivotal moments for me in learning how to do things. And yeah, so that's another thing that happened this year for me. Just to be selfish with me for a minute, because I want to talk to Rachel and Melanie and let them tell us about their year. And before I forget, if you guys can remind me that another AOS student had sent me an email this morning, give us something to talk about. Andrew Morris, he was in the last AOS class. So let me just find his email. Andrew said, because this will be more relevant to you, Rachel and Melanie. He said, hello, Patrick. I wanted to ask your advice on finding illustration work. Is there a way to find illustration work just to pull some money? Okay, so now the thing is that I was an illustrator for most of my career, but for the last 15 years, I haven't been an illustrator because, I don't need to be anymore. So illustration is the way to get money in your pocket, to give you freedom to do whatever you want at the end. But it's a
Yeah.
long road. No illustration, it basically paid for everything that I own. And now I'm looking for that holy grail at the end was now I can do what I was wanted like a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't get in this to work for someone. I get in this just to paint pictures and be
Yeah.
happy being
That's
an
the whole
artist. That's what I
agency
wanted to do.
thing.
It's the agency thing. So
Yeah.
I have agency now, and that's what I want. And that's what this podcast is about, is how do you find that agency? Well, first of all, we can't dismiss the idea. I mean, there's a big, you see it all over the internet. You don't have to work for the man anymore. That's great if you've already got a ton of money in your pocket. So you do have to work for the man. And working for the man isn't anything to be ashamed of. It's what we all do. Working for the man is how you line your pockets to be the man or to
Build a
be the
little
woman. They call it the
character.
man because they always say it's the man because it used to be the man only.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't have to be. Let's be the man. Let's be the woman. That has the agency to now give other people work. We don't have to demonize and say that guy's the man. He's a bad person. Well, I worked for the man, and they were nice people, and they
Yeah.
helped me get where I am today. So
Yeah.
we have to be. It's a big community of art, and demonizing people, I think, is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
So
And I would
even
say like a crummy job is okay if the boss is all right. I'll stick around if the
if the
boss
boss
is
is
cool.
okay,
Yeah, if it's a cool job and the boss sucks and he's annoying, I
yeah,
might be more likely to leave that one. So
yeah.
it's not all
Yeah, I
bad.
think what Yeah, I think that what happens is people they think about like big CEOs like Elon Musk and stuff, and they don't realize that some of the bosses are doing it tough. I mean, a lot of small businesses are doing it really tough. So I had a friend of mine who hired me when I came to Australia, and he was really great, and he never quibbled the fee. And he told me once that he closed the shop, he closed the agency that he was running. And I said, "What happened that suddenly stopped?" He says, "Well, they can't. The employees came into me one day and said we want to rise." He said just at the point where I was just about breaking point because I wasn't taking a wage. He says at this point I wasn't making any money. I was running the business to pay the employees, and one came in on behalf of the others and made a hard stand and said we want a raise or we're walking. And he says, well, we're all walking then because I don't have any money left. And he closed the shop.
Oh wow.
And that was a big shock. So basically they terminated themselves.
Yeah.
So they didn't realize just how tough the boss was doing it. So the boss
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a millionaire
Yeah.
at,
Sometimes you
at
can be
all.
kind of naive until you see it from their point of
That's right.
view.
And,
Yeah.
and maybe we take the word boss out of the equation and we just go, because this is how I always think. I want to be a collaborator. And if people are going to hire me for something, I go in and I see if they're a collaborating person. And if you're an employee and I'm the boss person, that kind of attitude,
Yeah.
because that guy didn't have that. He was always a collaborator. I never thought of him as a boss because we went to lunch and stuff. And that's why I loved him so much. And that's the only people I ever worked with. So as you get further along, you start to drop the ones that are, that traditional kind of weird boss where they think they are the boss
Yeah,
instead
that
of,
talk down to
I'm
you.
yeah, instead of I'm running the ship and we're all shipmates.
Yeah, my
And
first job, I was working in like frying chicken in the back of a grocery store, and that my boss was had been working at that grocery store since he was 14 years old. He was in his 50s, unmarried, like just sad guy. He would watch me on the cameras, on the security cameras, and if I would stop, I got everything settled. I'm just gonna chill for a moment. He would call the phone down in the back of the kitchen and be like, "What are you doing?"
yeah,
Get back to work, like clean something. I'm like, yeah,
such a tiny mind. And
yeah. I did not
he
take
will
that job
never
seriously either. Like no one
no,
did, no one did. You start like
he will
building
yeah,
camaraderie about like with the other
yeah.
employees, like because it's so terrible. So that part was
He
fun,
will
but
yeah, he will run that company into the ground and he won't
yeah,
understand.
yeah, yeah.
And that's there you go. So there's from life experience. Look at the life experience because everyone thinks, not everyone, what am I talking about? But people do sometimes think that if you've got nice stuff and everything, you've always been rich. And it's not true. It's not true at all. We were talking before this about how I lived in a squat in London and I had to scratch around I remember being 3 days without food. I had some water, but I had no food for 3 days, I remember.
Oh
And
man.
you might go, well, and a rich person might go, well, I've gone 3 days without food on purpose,
Yeah, it's because
to
they have
lose
so
weight.
much. Now we have to like schedule these
Yeah.
fasting
So, but they're
times.
they're lying in front of Netflix. I was scratching around the dirt
Yeah.
for 3 days and I was really hungry. That's unusual for, to be in a city and be 3 days without food, which I was. I remember that. So that was just a small moment to realize what Rachel was saying there, that I used to work in a pub and lots of pubs actually. It was the only way I could live in London because it was off the charts, like Los Angeles, impossible to live there as an artist and try and scratch your way unless you knew someone. And I didn't. So I worked in pubs and then I drew pictures for people and moved off. In fact, I lived on a building site nefariously. I'd work all day on the building site and then I'd sneak underneath the building site and draw little pictures on top of a boiler in a boiler room.
You would like
I
sleep
was the boiler
there?
rat. Yeah, I
It
was the
was
boiler
there
rat.
heat or
Yeah, I was on a boiler.
okay.
It was the, it was the nicest sleep I ever had in my life.
Okay.
I talked about it before on another, talking to Steve Houston, but basically it was a big casino and it was massive. It was it was right in the heart of the wealth of London. It was I'm trying to remember, it'll come to me, but it was right in the wealthy part of London. George Michael lived there. So it was Knightsbridge, around that, about that place. And I would say, see you all guys. And then I'd walk around the block. And by that point, everyone had gone their separate ways for their buses home. And I'd go underneath the hotel. It was a hotel with a casino in it. And we were building the casino. And I would go underneath the hotel. And it was giant boilers. I mean, they were taller than people. And they had letters on them. So I'd climb up the ladder to the top of the boiler and I would drag up foam boxes. You know that stuff that big machines come in. That foam that they carve in. You
Like
buy an Apple Mac
styrofoam?
computer,
Like
styrofoam. Yeah,
yeah,
but these
okay.
are but these are massive because they were delivering boilers in them.
And that was like
And
your
so
insulation?
no, that was my furniture.
That was your furniture. Okay.
I cut a bed. I cut a bed shape. It was dead easy to manipulate. I had all the tools. I
Yeah.
cut it with a knife and made
Yeah.
a bed. And then I took the casino curtains from the old casino because
Yeah.
they had so much money. The big velvet curtains, I took them, they were my bed sheets. And I went to sleep that night, and it was the nicest sleep I ever had because the boiler kept it was winter, you see, and the
Yeah.
boiler kept me warm. And then I started making little chairs and stuff on top of this giant boiler.
Yeah, you got
And the
creative.
night,
You got crafty.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, it was like a king with his throne.
Yeah.
And the watchman would come along with his torch every night, and I just had to be very quiet because he couldn't see. Because I was pushed way back behind at the back of the
Yeah.
boiler. He
Oh
couldn't see
wow.
me. The roof was very close to the top of my head,
Yeah.
but not close enough that I couldn't do exercise. So I was working out there on the pipes.
You gotta stay fit. And
Yeah.
that's like one thing. So I was like kind of writing stuff down, figuring out like what have I learned from this podcast this year, and
Yes.
all the different stories. There's no one path to being an artist. Everyone had like a different path. And like yours is like the ones I find like really inspiring because of my own personal experience is like the ones that like come out of the mud and like build themselves up that way. And
Yeah.
like that was like one of the things I learned. Like so Randall, I think, asking that question about like how you get your first illustration job. There's
Yeah.
put yourself out there, keep trying. Like that seems it seems like it's just about the consistency and the mindset more than like you go to this school, you get this job, you work there, and maybe there's like some kind of pipeline that way. But I think those are the jobs that are evaporating at the moment due to AI.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
I don't think there's one single path, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things I learned.
Well, that was a good answer. It was Andrew, actually, Andrew Morris.
Andrew.
And so, yeah, because we were looking at Randall's work a second ago, which we'll get back to. Yeah, well, that's why I passed it over to you guys, because the world has never changed so fast as now with AI. But we can draw comparisons because back in the day when I was working, the equivalent of AI was an airbrush. And it was just a new tool. It wasn't really a new tool. It was already being used in the 1920s to retouch photographs and stuff. But it suddenly became hugely popular, bouncing off the end of the pop era. And I don't know why it took so long to come back, but it was revived in the 1980s and 90s and stuff like that. And everyone went bananas for it. But people saw it like they see AI today. They go, "Oh, you're a turncoat to go and use that tool. It's not a traditional tool." But for me, it was essential because that was how I got work. I got work that no one else wanted to do. And so I had this airbrush, and it made me viable to look after myself. Like we were talking about earlier there, I went into greeting cards and was airbrushing all day for one day of the week. And it made sure that I had rent for the rest of the week. And I was suddenly free. I had freedom. Now, AI doesn't give you that freedom because anyone can do that.
Yeah,
Airbrush
yeah,
you still had to have a skill.
yeah.
So
Did
with
you
you
ever
guys,
like stop to think like maybe I should like stop and get a real job? Like that thought where you're like you see the guy fixing the roof and the guys fixing the plumbing and like people out in
yeah,
the world working for a living and
there was
you're
so many times.
cutting furniture out of styrofoam and like trying to draw pictures to make money.
There
Like
was so many times, Rachel, so many times. I remember an artist, and he was a really famous artist. And there's the thing, the perception that, you know, a lot of people would have when they see published work of someone on television, they automatically think they're rich. But I remember going to a laundromat when I was just when there's different humps, right? So I got off that hump and got some work I went to work in a place for ne'er-do-wells. It was called Brass Tacks, and it was basically for people that can't get work, and it was for people that were really so down on their luck that there was nothing else for them. No employer would touch them. It was called Brass Tacks, and I went there, and it was filled with the most wonderful people. It was filled with clowns. You know,
whoa.
who's hiring
Yeah.
a clown today in the recession? It was
Yeah.
filled. I learned how to unicycle. I learned how to juggle from those guys. It
Yeah.
was filled with upholsterers. For some reason, that business wasn't doing well. It was filled with people that hadn't been working for 6 months, and I learned how to do loads of things because it was a, it was just basically a government funded thing. So it was just Adobe stuff. It was just a wall. You could hear the upholsterers behind. I remember I said, can we bring a life model in? And because I started thinking I can make a business in here. Because that was the whole idea. You had to make a business. And
Huh.
so show us how you can make a business. It was a really great idea.
Yeah.
So you can make a business without losing anything. And here was the thing, we got so successful, right? We were so successful because local businesses would come to us. There was a recession. Local businesses would come to us for things that they couldn't afford anymore because of the recession, and we would build it for them for free.
Huh.
Or sorry, no, we charged them, but it was a very small amount of money.
Yeah.
And we were so successful, they stopped us. The government stopped us and says you can't
Yeah.
make a
I've
profit.
never
That's
heard
not
of
the idea.
something like that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
government says you have to stop. You can't make a profit on this business. It's not a business for profit. And so we had to all put down tools and go, this isn't how business works. We
Yeah.
were too successful. And so we did a lot of charity work as well. We did tons of stuff, but it was just that little bit where businesses come in, stop the shop. They said you can't make a profit. It was a really bizarre thing. But it showed us that we could be successful. So that's what we did. I got a life model in once, and she says there's someone looking through the keyhole. She could see me. And I
Although,
opened the
Peeping
door.
Tom.
I opened the
yeah.
door, and it was all the woodworking guys
Oh
down
my
the hall.
god.
They were bashing each other out of the way to look through the hall.
Yeah.
They were great times, you know. We
Yeah.
were talking before this, how great those times were. When you're young, it doesn't matter. You can just be battered around all day and still pick yourself back up again. But back to Rachel's question, did I ever? I remember times, I remember saying to someone in the darkest hour, I said, if you could see how hard this has been when you were starting out, would you have done it? And he said no. And I said, I'm really getting to that point where I might have not done it. But ignorance was my strength, because if you'd went back in time and said, here's how tough these next 5 years are going to be, it might have been detrimental to me. I might have went, well, maybe I should get another job and do that until, and then I'd have been stuck in that job for the rest of my life. So ignorance was bliss for me because I didn't know how tough it was going to be. But I was so young, it didn't matter anyway, because I just went, I can just pick myself back up again. I've got
Yeah.
more now than I had then. And that became a real anchor for me. I kept going, I've got more now than I had then. So it's not as tough from this point on.
Yeah.
And I kept doing it over and over. I've got more now than I had then. And then when I came to Australia, I lost everything. I was 36 and I had nothing. So I couldn't say I've got more now than I had then, because I
Yeah.
didn't. So my
Yeah.
house, I'd lost everything. I'd lost all my money, nothing. I had nothing. And I thought to myself, I was sitting in a tree
But did you
and
just
I was
like
like,
not like find work there? Like,
no, I just landed here. I
oh,
just went, I'm here. I'm
okay.
here. That's it. I immigrated. So I landed here with nothing and I went, you got nothing, have you?
Yeah, but
And then I
what?
realized, yeah, go on, Rachel. I think
Uh,
you've got the answer. But
I was
I
gonna say
came,
like, were you like cutting furniture out of styrofoam and sleeping like a homeless person? Like what? You weren't
no,
there,
no,
so it's
no.
still
I did
better
have,
than
yeah,
that.
I didn't land in a tree. I didn't
Yeah,
fall out of a plane and land in a tree. Well, I came over with my wife. I got
yeah,
married in Ireland to an Australian woman, and we came back, but she didn't have anything either. And so but we did have people that she knew, and they let us stay with them for a while. So I did have something, but I
yeah,
didn't have anything to back up the 36 years. No, you know how people say, here's what I have. I have this home, I have this car. I didn't have anything. But then I realized that wasn't true. I was sitting in she was in the hospital for some reason. And I was not, just, nothing serious or anything, just
She's
go and
just
get
in the
medication or
hospital.
something. I don't know what, but I was sitting in a tree looking at the sky because I had nothing to do.
Yeah,
And I thought, what am I going to do here? And then I realized I had tons. I had 36 years of experience
yeah, the skill.
and
Hmm.
skill. And within
Yeah,
6 months, I was way on my feet. So I condensed 36 years back into 6 months. And within 6 months, I was the guy in town. Here's the guy to go to. This guy. Every
yeah.
agency was. I
Uh,
was on a bus once. Sorry, Rachel. It's just one story.
yeah,
I
no,
know
go
it's,
ahead. I'm just
don't
trying to
forget
like
it.
riff off of whatever you're saying, I guess.
No, go ahead, Rachel. You riff off, and I'll try and hold
Oh,
the idea. Melanie, say bus to me when Rachel's finished, will you?
All right, I got you.
I was just gonna like
You got me?
compare that to like people who like get real fit, they work out, get buff, and then you stop for like a year or two, and then
Yeah,
however long it took you to get to that point, if you start up again, it'll take you like a fraction of that time to get back to
that's
that.
right.
And so like like it might take you like 3 years to be able to lift 200 pounds, but then come back to it. It may only take you like 6 months.
Yeah, because you know
It'll-
what to do now.
yeah. Now you kind of like have that muscle memory.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you get the
Like
map.
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that's it. That's a good analogy because that's happening to me right now. Before, when I built the studio downstairs, I talked about it before. I was sick when I built it, so I was very ill. I had COVID or something, but I carried on building it, and I lost 10 kilos. And I remember going, I looked at myself in the mirror and I went, you're like Tom Hanks from Castaway. You ripped. This is the best illness you've ever had. And I thought, this is amazing. And now you've got a studio that you built as well. And I could hardly remember building the studio. I was never hungry because I was sick. So I was just working. I thought, boy, you look like an Adonis. Well, I put the 10 kilos back on over Christmas
Oh
here.
yeah,
And I looked
that
in the mirror
yeah.
the other day and I went, you need to be sick again, pal.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it kind of
But
works that way too. Like if you get big, you get fat, and then you try and get
yeah,
skinny, and then you can get fat again.
Yeah, double-edged sword.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. You're like, I knew how I got there. I could come right back.
Yeah, I can come back from that. So I got to come
Yeah,
back from that now. But But Melanie, you were going to tell me something.
I was gonna tell you something.
Yes,
We've gone off the
one word.
rails.
Back to you,
One word.
Patrick.
Starts with a B. Bus.
How do you remember it and she doesn't?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't remember.
I'm
I
just
said,
lost in
Melanie,
the
hold
sauce.
it. Remember when Rachel finished to say bus to me in case I forget?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what.
Bus.
Yeah.
Bus, Patrick.
Yeah, you were talking about
Thank
how you
you.
got back. Yeah, yeah. We're coming
Yeah.
back. Okay.
The comeback. So
Yeah.
for the art agents, how to take agency, right? So learn from our experiences. Learn from the fact that you can always pick yourself back up. I was on a bus. I still didn't learn. I didn't know how to drive when I was 36, by the way. So you might think, oh, you know,
Yeah.
what
Oh.
am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that everyone you look at that's successful hasn't got everything you thought they had handed to them, kind of thing. I didn't know how to drive. So I got a bus everywhere, and these agencies would call me in Australia because everyone drives in Australia. So I
Yeah.
was really disadvantaged. I didn't know how to drive because I've been living in London where nobody drives.
Yeah. What was it like
And I
learning
went,
how to drive at 36? That's-
yeah, it was really tricky. It
yeah.
was really tricky because they're used to having kids in the car with them, like a little kid sitting there. So I was talking to them as a grown up. He says you got an air of responsibility about you. I say, I'm 36. You're taking this very seriously.
Yeah.
So I learned to drive easily. I learned to drive really easily,
Okay.
and I thought it was going to be hard. And I got a perfect score on the driving test. I'd never driven a car in my life. I got a perfect
Wow.
score. And the guy said to me, "Can I take this certificate and hang it on the wall to show how good a driving school this is? There's an excellent score right there." So it was really easy, and I was so shocked how easy it was to learn how to drive. The thing that was hard to learn was the theory, what the signs meant and
Oh.
everything. Anyway, before that, I was on a bus
Okay.
and I was embarrassed about not being able to drive because I remember a girl laughing at me. I remember I was at a party once and she says, "You don't drive?" I said, "No, I've never learned." And she burst out laughing. And I felt terrible shame.
Yeah.
And so I learned to drive, not because of that shame, but because I was on a bus one day going to this agency and I had four different agencies to go to in this day. This is 6 months after that
Yeah.
tree, by the way. So I had four different agencies calling me and I have a mobile phone by this point. So I'm on the bus and I have it plotted out. I have the map of Brisbane, the new city, because I don't know it. And I'm going, this bus route takes me here, and this bus route takes me there, and I've got to be here for 10, and I've got to be there for 11, and I've got to be there for 12. And there was times when I was chatting with people and they were really talky, and I would go, "Well, I gotta go now because I gotta catch this bus." But I didn't say that. In my head, I gotta catch this bus. So I run down the stairs in a big sweat, catch the bus to the next agency, which was across the river. Dead exciting. Anyway, so I'm on this bus. And this guy calls me from another agency. He says, "I heard you're very good." And I says that because here's what happens if you do a good job for Clemenger, then Mojo across the water are hearing about this guy that's new in town, and call him. I've got his number here. So he called me on the bus, and I'm on the bus, right? And he goes, "Where are you? I'd love to talk to you about that." And I've got my portfolio with me because I'm going from agency to agency. And he says, "Can you see me in half an hour?" And I went, "Half an hour? I've got to get to this other guy within an hour. I can do it because I can see where the agency is that he's talking about." I says, "Yeah, and I told a lie. I says, "Yeah, just letting people in the bus can hear me." I said, "Yeah," because I saw the bus stop coming up. I says, "Yeah, just let me pull over here." Right?
Yeah.
And the bus pulled over. And
Yeah.
everyone was just staring at me on the bus, going, "What, this guy's a
Yeah.
crazy person." Please don't say you're on a bus. Don't dob me in. And I get off
Yeah.
the bus. You could hear the doors go, and I saw it's a noisy city. He said, "You did it very well getting the park so quickly. I can never get a park." It was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Exciting
So I love
times.
those. Yeah, I love those days. So being
Yeah.
poor isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. It's actually your best memories. Now, that's me. I talk too much. Hand it over to Rachel and Melanie. I'll start looking at other works here. Rachel, Melanie, tell everyone about your year, please.
Do you want to talk
Well,
about your year?
We started working at Proco.
Yeah, we
which was
started
really
working
cool.
Yeah.
for Proco. Yeah. What else did you do this year, Melody?
Well, I quit my day job, so
Oh,
yeah.
that's a big
so
call.
I was working a full-time job in Proco on top of that, and this job, I mean, it took up a lot of my time and energy. And I worked there for 3 years. I really enjoyed working there. It was very, as Rachel said, it was very not boring.
They replaced you with at least two people.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
one person
Melanie,
right
there's
now.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're
there you
talking about
go.
hiring another one. So I was doing a lot of work, and I was very mentally drained. So I'm
Yeah.
taking 2025 as a way to put myself in a position where I either sink or swim. So
Oh, that's not a bad position. That's
yeah.
not a bad position at all.
So and having
'Cause-
Proco is a huge help. Because
yeah,
not only, I mean, I'm a part of the community now, which is really amazing, and everyone's very
Yeah.
supportive. And then
yeah,
I get to brush up on the fundamentals, which is one of the things on my list of things that
yeah.
I learned in 2024 is how important having a strong foundation is.
I learned how to draw a cylinder.
Yeah.
So important. So important. And let's do a shout out for Progo because here's what I've learned. We were talking about it before the podcast that when you find a good agency or a good collaborator, that's gold. That is really gold because we can't do this alone, no matter how we think. I mean, I can say I did it alone, but I didn't really. If I hadn't
Mhm.
met good people here, good people there that bought my stuff, somebody has to buy it first. And Proco has been an amazing collaborator with me this year. And I just put out another course with them, and it's just gone gangbusters. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, there's
In fact, I
tens
can
of
share a little
thousands
bit.
of people on there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So when you collaborate with someone as generous as Proco and as nice as Proco, he's such a really
Hmm.
nice fella. And the whole of Proco are wonderful people too. So I went to see Proco, and I thought this is a really terrific bunch of people. If every agency was like this, you can see why they're so successful, because everyone's happy. So if you're happy in your work and you employ good people like Melanie had to be replaced by two people, then you're on the road. So I think the first thing is to be optimistically, generous with yourself as well. Say, I can do this, and I'm going to do the best work. I've always said this. I'll do the best work I can and more, regardless of the fee. And I know a lot of artists always said, I'm only doing $100 worth of work. And I thought that's insane because people will see that work and they'll go, this guy's not as good as he used to be. So we can't be bitter. If you're going to take the job and it's $100, do your best work.
Yeah,
Don't do
yeah.
bad, you know?
That was something
And that's,
that bothered me. I did I was full time illustrator for a few years, and then 2020 kind of put me back down. But I worked with these people, and they would be like complaining all day and like kind of spiteful
yeah,
about what they were. And I never because I dropped out of college and I started learning from online, and the online students are more serious, I think, or
Hmm.
something. Like they're more happy
yeah,
to be there, just like happy. Like they're not. It just seems like a different animal.
Because they want to be there. I mean, they're
Yeah, and so I
self-directed.
just
yeah,
hadn't encountered this, and so now I'm I got my dream job. I'm getting paid 15 an hour to draw cartoon characters all day, and then they were just complaining all the time, and
yeah.
yeah, it was just kind of difficult to see that.
Well,
Drove
there
me crazy.
you've hit the nail right on the head,
Yeah,
Rachel. So there, no matter where you are, you already have that strength I had in the tree. They're going to complain for the rest of their lives. That's who
yeah,
they are. That's who they are. Where you're thinking, this is something that's making me better.
yeah,
Even though, forget about the pay. The pay has to just go out the window. The agency is you. You're going, I'm improving my work here as I go, no
Hmm.
matter what it
yeah.
is.
I was just
I had a,
happy. I've been waitressing for several years, and then have to sit down for hours every night. I would usually draw in the day, and then you waitress, get off of work at 11 o'clock, midnight if it's messy, get home, do that
yeah.
again the next day. And so I was like, I get
Oh,
to just sit and draw all day. That's so awesome. And
it's
it's,
amazing. And
yeah.
that's the thing as well. A bit of hardship is actually a gift. I did the same thing, Rachel. I remember working in pubs, and it was just, I see people at a pub and I go, why didn't I get that job where they're just sitting there reading the newspaper? I was in the pub. It was called the Nag's Head, and it was between Covent Garden and the West End. And so you had the West End crowd come in, and between performances of plays, you had the ballerina people come in. I mean, it was wonderful, but it was non-stop. people deep at the bar all the time. And
Oh my god.
my key was in the till on a string. So I would have the key in the till all the time. And I'd let the string pull the key out because I was running around pouring pints
Yeah.
doing the. I thought I was bad at math. I could calculate after that
Oh my.
job,
They've done like
and I
brain scans of people who like do that type of work for like decades. The part of your brain
yeah
for multitasking gets bigger
Mm.
because you're like, oh,
yeah
I need to do this, that, that. He needs
Hmm.
that over there, that, that, that. You do that for like 20 years, and your brain starts to change.
yeah that's true. And
Yeah.
like my I wasn't getting any art skills there, right?
Yeah.
But I remember a guy saying this is a really good barkeep. I heard someone in the crowd say this guy's a really good barkeep, and I thought I've only just learned this 2 months ago, and it really made me happy. I thought you can really find joy in everything if you make it joyful. Where
Yeah.
those people, I was making it joyful. I was going, how many people can I serve here?
Oh
And I remember
yeah.
one of the people was a celebrity, and I remember that guy used to be on television. I loved him.
That's
He used
wild.
to teach he used to teach maths. He was like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Johnny Ball he was called. He's got a daughter called Zoe Ball, and she's an actress. And I was serving people, and he was there, and I went, Johnny Ball, and that's all I said to him, and went
Yeah.
off and poured other pints, and he was really delighted, because he hadn't been on television for 20 years.
Yeah. You like find
Johnny
a way
Ball.
to make it fun still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
that was really fun. So if you can keep your optimistic heart alive, that's the main thing. If you start to moan, and I'm capable of it, I can feel myself moaning, and I have to
Yeah.
catch myself. Kill that because it's no good.
Yeah.
Willie
Really
Nelson was talking about
calcifies
it.
you.
Yeah, Willie Nelson said it the other day that worrying about stuff never does any good at all. Just do something, but worry, it's just awful. It
Yeah.
has no, it's poison.
Hmm.
So I better do some drawovers here. So we've got, because I asked some of the AOS students to bring some stuff in. So yeah, my year as well, by the way. We haven't heard about Rachel. We've heard you guys jointly being
Hmm.
in the Proco gang. And I've also been in the Proco gang too. So I've had this has been my most successful thing in a while, which is the Apprentice to Wizard course, which is on Proco and on
Yeah.
my
The stuff students are
blog.
drawing from that is really cool. It's turning out good. So whatever you're saying in
They're
there
really
is
good.
it's working.
Yeah, they're really good and they're really enjoying it. And that's a great feedback too. That's a real gift for me to get back because you do this on your own. I've got another course I'm doing at the minute called Drawing the Easy Way. It's just have the germ. So I don't know what I'm going to call it, but in my head it's Drawing the Easy Way. And so with that one nucleus, I'm working this course off that idea. And I've got tons in the bag. So it's going to be a follow-up from this. And that's another thing. If you've always never sit and wait is one of the big, I'm going to say that slowly. Never sit and wait. Okay? Somebody said this to me once, and it was so hard to hear, but it was such a truth. He says, nobody's coming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you might wait for your chance. Nobody's coming.
Yeah, I think people like confuse like what being lucky is about. Like it's when
Yes,
you're in the right place at the right time, but you also have to
that's
like
right.
be ready for it.
Hmm.
Like all these
That's
like
right.
chances and opportunities will present themselves all the time, but you're just not ready for
Rachel,
them.
there you go.
uh,
There's words of wisdom right
I
there.
hope
Words of
so.
wisdom. Yeah, it definitely is. So my big philosophy is do something. Do something. No matter what it is. Because even if it isn't the thing that it's going to be, it's the start of the thing that it's going to be. So
Yeah.
let's say I start a course drawing the easy way and I go, you know what? I've got a better idea than that. The better idea than that didn't happen without the first idea. So do something. And it's that old Jack Kirby thing. They hired a guy and on the recommendation that his work was great, and he came into work every day and didn't work. And he said that Joe Simon said to Jack Kirby, I thought he was supposed to be good. And he says he is good. Have you seen his work? Well, he's in there doing nothing.
Hmm.
And Jack Kirby went in and he says, what have you done today? He says, I'm waiting for inspiration. And Jack Kirby made a mark on his paper. Now, this could be apocryphal, this story, but it's
Yeah.
still in the story. He made a mark on his paper, and the guy said, oh, you've ruined my board. And he rubbed it out and started drawing because
So
he
you
made
just
a
got
mark.
them started. Yeah.
He just got to make a mark. And it was a
Yeah.
great analogy for that. Like this course here was a monumental course. I mean, it boiled down to 19 and a half hours. But can you imagine how many hours that it boiled down from? But now I look at it and it looks so effortless. Well, see the tons of paper that went flying over my shoulder before I go, this is a good one. And then I started, and all the recording that you take out, because nobody wants to see all of it, It just took forever, but it breezed by. It was an absolute breeze. I loved every minute of it. So being a teacher teaches you how to be a better artist as well. Don't you guys find that having to explain something
Yeah.
actually makes you realize that maybe you don't know it as well as you did or thought you
Yeah,
did?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's also like this thing where like I know if Proco was doing what he's doing when I was 15, I would have been all about it. And I see some of these
Yeah.
teenagers and it's intimidating. I'm like,
Yeah.
what could I do to help this child? All you could really do is just keep them doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like kind of crazy to see that too. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
The level of education you can get today.
Yeah. And Beast, I think what the biggest learning I've found as well from being a teacher is being gruff doesn't work. Be kind. Be kind works. Now, that doesn't mean be soft and say everything's good. Just be kind. Just
Yeah.
go, oh, because students beat themselves up already, so you don't have to beat them up any further. Go, I've done a terrible drawing. And it's always the best
Oh
student that
yeah.
says that. I says that's a cracking drawing. Look, all it needs is this and that, and I'll put a few lines in, and they'll be amazed at how close they were to where they want it to be.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yeah, that's what it comes down to, just like tiny little fixes at that
Yeah.
point. It's just
Yeah.
like
Well, it's funny we should say that because just look there, for instance, just there on what I just did on that knee. Let's have a look at it right here. I think it's coming up. So watch that knee there, right? It's a mark. It's the idea of a knee. So the kind of student that would say that to me, a really good student would say, I've drawn the knee really badly here. I go, no, that's in the ballpark. There's not much to be done to that knee now. So I'm doing iterations of ballpark marks here. Watch the knee. So there's the big condyle from the femur and the vastus medialis bulge, right? And all that other stuff in there, semitendinosus and stuff. Right, so we know our anatomy, me, Rachel, and Melanie. There's the knee. It's fixed now. There you go. So look how close we were in there. And I could fix that more and more. The tibial nose was all it took there. This anterior muscle here. It doesn't take much. Look at the fluidity of this arm. All from putting marks down and then refining the marks. So be
yeah.
kind to yourself. You're nearly always going to be in the ballpark. It just needs a little bit finesse. And, I can spruik my course now. So I've got the anatomy of style coming up this week, actually, on Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's a
Awesome.
small class. Yeah, I kept it to 10. It's a small class. At the minute now, we've got, I think, 6 people in there. And so there's openings for another 4 people before Saturday. But I'm happy with 6 because I'm always that person. I'm always that person that's happy. 1, 2, 3. I don't care. As long as we're all in there drawing together. And I actually kept it to 10 because when it was 15, I didn't give enough love to people. I couldn't do it. There wasn't enough time. People were falling asleep because it was like in the morning for them, late in the night.
Yeah.
You remember what that was like on CGMI? I never shut
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I watched the
remember?
whole thing until 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Now, did you guys meet at CGMI?
No, I was
Hey.
actually I never took your CGMA class. I
Yeah.
took
Oh,
it
didn't
when
you?
you had had it on your website.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
the
that's right.
timeline. I actually found. I was going through like some old files on one of my hard drives, and I found like the initial certificate I got from CGMA. I think it was 2018.
Wow, that's a
and
long
or
time ago.
2017. Oh man, now I already forgot again. But and then it was like the week of that I get a job illustrating for a few years. And then when I left that
Yeah.
job, me and Melanie worked together there. And then when we lost that job, I was like, I got an email for you for like a discounted thing, and I was like, oh, we
Yeah.
should take this class together. And then that was the first time we took the class together. Was in 2021.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
those years flutter by.
Yeah,
Look at
it's
those years
crazy.
flutter by.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, but look what art does as well. It can be very lonely being an artist because very few people are. And look at us now, friends across the water.
Yeah, it's
And it's
crazy.
friends across the world too. I always feel a little bit of sadness when an anatomy of style course stops because look how it's like a war situation where people had great romances during the war because there was such a heightened sense of everything happening at once, and you were all in it together, and you made friendships very quickly. That's what happens when I joined the Navy, it was like that. Everyone meets together. They don't know anyone but themselves, and it's the first time everyone's met everyone, and it's an incredible quick bond that happens there. So art does that. Art is fantastic for that, and that's why I created the Discord channel, because I didn't want to lose those friendships. Look what it's like. Like for instance, I was just talking the other day with Chuck. We very nearly met up in Vegas. Those friendships can happen without art, or without having some community that's online like this. So that's what's great about today. We didn't have that. When I was in London, I was in a bed sit, and when I walked into the street, I was totally alone, and that was that. And you look at the sky and you go, "What next?" But once you find another artist, then you've got other artists, and they're
Yeah.
really tight.
Yeah.
Once I found another artist, I'd walk into a pub, and that's actually a real story. Once I met one artist, he says, come with me to the pub." Go to the pub, 10 other artists sitting in a row.
Yeah.
Because they have to clump together. We're a herd that is threatened
Yeah. Yeah. I
by the
think
hyenas.
I have definitely followed that. Like, I got Melanie living with me, and my boyfriend draws, and like, for me, it was just like I moved a lot as a kid, and so I just became like the weird art kid in school, and so that was
Yeah,
like how I would like that was like the icebreaker, I guess. Like, just keep drawing, and then I don't know. I've always
yeah,
kind of followed that, and it's worked out so far.
yeah.
Yeah, and then
And
like the jobs I have now, like just working all these odd jobs, I find them fast. I find them fast. Like
yeah,
when I'm like, I can just kind of tell. I'm like, oh, that like at the farm I work at, like we have to turn our fruit in at a table after we like fill up a box, and we put it on the table, and there's like this number that we have to like write on the box for, you know, to claim it as ours. But on the board with the number, I started doodling on it, just little
yeah.
things like just little cat or something, and then you see other people start doodling. You're like, oh god, that one doesn't know how to draw. But then you're like, oh
That one.
well, yeah, yeah. You're like, but they keep on doing it. You just admire what they're whatever. But then all of a sudden you'll just like see some. They're like, oh, who did that one? Who did that one? And then I start like picking them out,
Yeah,
and I've done that for 3 years now on this farm, and I do that on other jobs too. Like I always find like some version of that. And there's
yeah,
actually one job I had where I started. We had to like put these big sheets of paper on the table, and I started just automatically doodling on it, and they made me stop. They told me to stop. They said that was against the rules. I couldn't doodle on the paper.
Against the
Oh,
rules.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, because it was,
against the rules.
yeah, yeah. We were, yeah. It was a paper that we were gonna throw out afterwards anyway. There was no food safety to worry about or nothing, and I quit that job.
Of course you can.
But
See,
I took a bunch of my stickers there, and I covered that place in stickers.
oh
So
yeah, let's see those very stickers.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
let's see those. So that was a nice segue there, actually.
yeah, yeah.
If
Okay,
any, if someone could say over to you, Patrick, that'd be great.
over to you. Yeah,
You gotta use the news voice.
I'm not good at that.
Yeah, you got to use it. Melanie's good. Go, Melanie.
And back to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Melanie. And here we are in Patrick's studio, and we have at the moment here just a special delivery in the
Oh yeah,
post.
see, I put them everywhere. They're
Look
in
at that.
Japan, Mexico, and Australia now.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this is Spike. What was
Yeah.
this little guy called?
That was tiny, and that this is
Tiny.
something I worked on this year. I guess is building up this strange world for this comic that I'm working on. That is slowly growing. Comics take a long time.
You do.
That's something I learned. Comics take a
They took a
long
long time.
time. Yeah, it's like I can
Comics
do a
take a long
chapter in a
time.
weekend. You can't do a chapter in a weekend.
Yeah, they take a long time, but it's IP. So that's another thing we haven't touched on as well. It's IP.
Yeah,
So it's your intellectual property that one day could be something really special. And even if you just publish it as a self-published comic book, it could become the basis. Look at The Walking Dead. And we're talking pie in the sky there, of course, but look at Walking
yeah,
Dead. These guys weren't particularly very good artists, but they were good storytellers. And they had, look what they created. They created a
yeah,
multi-million-dollar empire. Just a couple of kids, really. Because I remember seeing their comics when they came out. It's definitely an independent publisher, as far as I remember. It could have been Dark Horse, but I remember going, wow, that's a really great story. I wouldn't have read this if the story wasn't so good. I wouldn't have looked at the artwork. So I usually go for the artwork, and then the story's, you know, it's incidental to me because I love the art. But that was a different story altogether. Literally and figuratively, it was a
Yeah.
brilliant story.
Yeah, and there's also something
So
else I learned is like you gotta do it because you want to do it because it's probably
exactly,
most likely not gonna make you money. And that's
exactly,
one thing I didn't hear a single person we talked to. Like we've had like 10 or 12 guests so far. I haven't heard any of them say that I did it for the money or like I tried to
never,
make money. Like
never,
it was something that they were doing and then it just kind of organically sprouted from there and somehow the money came
yeah,
after that. And
never.
yeah, so it just
And
has to
in
be
fact,
something you want to do.
and you know what? A cautionary tale. I can trace it back because it's not a fairy story, is it? We need money. If we live in a capitalist society, we need
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
And I remember, and especially if you're in a city, if you're out in the countryside, you can pick an apple and, lie in the field all day. And back in Ireland, there's people do that. They just lounge around the countrysides and chew cud. But when you're in the city, you need money. And I remember every time I started making money because I was doing good work and I was enjoying it. And I went, okay, if I do five more of these, like let's say it was an advertising job, if I do five more of these and started thinking about the money, I wasn't doing good work. And then the money dried up because those kind of jobs, they just come and go. Nobody cares about them. Nobody wants to see a story about a vase and the story about a cabinet, because
yeah,
that's what I was making the money at, drawing things.
yeah,
But if I'd have been drawing, Captain Starlight's journey to the future, where he fights aliens and stuff, everybody wants to go and see Captain Starlight. I'm just making this up as I go, fighting aliens from the future, right? Everybody's into that. So that's sustainable. That's got legs. We used to call it legs. Has it got legs? And if you're doing something you love, it's got legs. And it could be something else. Like
yeah,
I pitch things. I pitch things all the time. And here's the thing. Oh, I've got something to tell people. Let's say you're pitching something to someone and it's your big project. Okay, so you've worked on Captain Starlight, Captain from the future fights the aliens, right? You've worked on that all your life and you love it, and you go, "This is it now." And somebody wants to hear the pitch, and you go into the room and you go, "It's Captain Starlight, he fights aliens in the future," and they go, "Oh yeah, something just came out there. It's called Captain Puglight, and he fights aliens in the future. What else you got?" And all in a second, your whole dreams have been crushed,
yeah,
and you're not coming back from it. You can't say, "Oh, but." There's no "oh, but" in a pitch. What else you got? And I have found a million things like that where you go in with this one pitch. You better have two more up your sleeve.
yeah,
What else you got?
yeah.
You go, "Oh, all right, I've got this story about pirates and they sail these seven seas and then they fall off the end of the earth and they discover the earth isn't round." I'm making this up as I go.
I
Right?
mean, there is.
Yeah, go
there,
on.
there is a story kind of like that where the guy he was like,
See?
yeah,
Well, give me
yeah,
something else then.
yeah.
What else? Oh,
Anyone?
sorry, we've got a story like that. What else you got?
No, no, no. Like the guy who made One Piece, which I've been dedicating a lot of time to this year. If you want to talk
Yeah.
about that, it's like, but he's worked on a single story for 26 years now. This show's been coming out, and he started it. It was
Yeah.
like he did some, from what I've read, he did some work on a couple other like big name like anime comic things, and then
Yeah.
this was like his first step into like an independent comic, and they put like one chapter out in a magazine and people immediately loved it, and then 26 years later it's still running strong.
See that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
perfect.
So it's
Look, I
possible.
was, yeah, it's possible. Look, I
If
was
you're
in
a
a movie
genius.
studio. Exactly. Absolutely, because he loved it. I was in a
Yeah.
movie studio. It was in my early 20s. Now, think about this. You know the story I told about earlier, where I was living above the boiler inside. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Fast forward 6 months. 6 months later, I'm working in Pinewood Studios in London on movies, right? 6 months later. And not as an employee, as a collaborator. They didn't hire me as a production staff. Well, kind of did, but not really. Just perchance. You know that idea of you start something? I was working in a greeting card company, and in walk two guys. In walk two script writers, and they know my friend. My friend is already in London. He's been working forever, right? So you can say, "Oh, well, he was lucky, wasn't he? He was born in London. He still lives at home with his parents. He's got everything." Should we be jealous? No, not at all. He's a great guy. I loved him to death. He taught me so much, right? I didn't have that. I get off the boat, fell on my ass, ended up on a boiler. Doesn't matter. I'm in the green card company now, and they go over to this guy and they say, "We're working on film scripts. They're working on film scripts. Can you get some concepts going?" As they walk past my desk, they both do, that comedy thing, they did a little bit, they
Mhm.
turn the head really fast. They did that because I'm working on science fiction stuff. Another project, right? I'm working on science fiction stuff to take me out of the greeting card because I don't wait for another greeting card. I go, I'm going to do a science fiction thing here because to me it was bliss. I went, I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm in a studio doing greeting cards and I've got a desk. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I can do everything here. And so I would get another project out. And they went, and they went, wow, what's that you're working on? I said, it's just one of my things. And they said, we're at Pinewood Studios. Would you be willing to come up and talk to Peter Snell? And I went, sure. Is that okay with you, Matt? And he says, yeah. And so when they left, I says, Matt, let's be partners. And we made a partnership right there on the spot, right on the spot. And we says, let's take our skills to Pinewood Studios. Off we went to Pinewood Studios together as a team. Hired us on the spot, Peter Snell. And I'm sitting with Peter Snell, and this is before the internet. And I said to Peter Snell, the producer, he owned British Lion Productions, because it was that work, it was that painting. And they showed, I took that painting with me to Peter Snell, and I showed it to him. He went, yeah, come on in. We've got big ideas for movies here. I said to Peter, and it was totally genuine. I said, Peter, what have you done? What movies have you produced? And he said to me, I produced a couple of duds that didn't go anywhere. I said, what were they? And he says, The Wicker Man. I said, The Wicker Man? I said, The Wicker Man? That is my favorite horror movie and I don't mean that Nicolas Cage one, that was a disaster. I mean the 1970s one with Christopher Lee when he was young. I says, The Wicker Man is my favorite horror movie of all time. And I talked and I talked and I says, oh, that scene, oh, it was wonderful. That was a brilliant, genius work from everyone. I just loved that movie. See, from that instant, me and him were friends for life because he thought that was a failure because it failed at the box office. And to
Yeah.
hear that come back to him. Anyway, fast forward, we're
Yeah.
working there.
It's funny how things
We're in
like
a
that
pitch.
work out.
I know, but it's all passion, isn't it? Look at all the
Yeah.
passion in it. But just before I take over too much, to go back to the segue, we were in the pitch office, right, with these two scriptwriters, were wonderful people, and they were pitching the story that we've been working on for 3 months, right? They loved everything. Peter loved everything. He says, "This is great. This is going to fly." And we went into the pitch office, and the Bank of Bermuda people came over. The Bank of Bermuda people wanted to bankroll Peter's productions because he had a good track record. He had made other movies, of course, but I was crazy for The Wicker Man. So we were pitching that one we were doing, right? And we had all the artworks. There was no computers. We had all the artworks that I had done and Metin had done, my partner, all around the room. And when they went in, they went, woof. They went fantastic. They loved it because they love visuals. So they sat there and with the visuals behind, started to pitch the story, right? And one of them said, that sounds like another movie, right? I'm trying to remember what the movie was called. It had Dolph Lundgren in it. And they were right. The movie had come out. That's why movies are so secretive, because if you let it leak, someone else can make it really quickly on the cheap. Like when Apocalypse Now was being made, everyone started making Vietnam movies because Francis Coppola was working on Apocalypse Now, and they threw out a bunch of Vietnam movies on the buzz of it. It was called Guardians of the Universe or something. Anyway, so that's already out, right? The screenwriter went, "We're dead in the water," because the Bank of Bermuda are practically about to pack up. And he says, "Oh, ours is different than that." So what happens next? This was called Songship. What happens next is the music is only the beginning of it. This is Platoon in space. Now, Platoon was the big Vietnam movie at the time,
Yeah.
number one box office around the world. This is Platoon in space. They sat back down again. And I went,
In space.
Platoon in space. This is nothing. I didn't say anything, but I went, there's nothing in the script here about Platoon in space at all. And he pitched a story off the top of his head about a bunch of troops in space.
Whoa.
And he basically just told Platoon again, but on a different planet. And they were
Yeah.
all in.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. So that one
Yeah.
thing we did led to the thing. That
Yeah.
one thing that
There's also
you got to be.
this I've thought about this because like Frazetta and some of the quotes they put up from him on Frazetta Girls on Instagram, and something that just like kind of spills out really fast. I guess like he would sit down and do a painting in like a day or two or however long he
Yeah,
spent, and I don't know. It just has sometimes the best ideas could come out that way. If you sit on an idea for
yeah,
years and years and years, like maybe that one won't work as well. But sometimes you just like get it to work right off the bat like that.
yeah. It's amazing. I mean, one day you might be sitting in the multiplex and there's Moth and Spike on the screen
Oh
in
yeah,
3D.
yeah,
That's not totally improbable.
yeah. I'm a just my plan is to just get to an end point. Like I have the story written out, but just to
Yeah,
fill it in. However, it might take me a few years to do this whole thing, and then whatever happens from there. And then, if that one doesn't work, I already have 10 other ideas in my head that I'll
same.
start on the next one and just keep on
Yeah,
grinding it out. And the odds of it not working will just start to go down and
that's right.
down, and that
That's
that's
right.
like all you can kind of do, like just cross your fingers and hope for the best, and hope that I'm
Yeah.
like, something happens before I'm 50. But yeah,
But
but
you know
I mean
what,
there's those
Rachel, you've
stories
all,
too where people just like blow up in their like
yeah,
40s and 50s.
yeah. But you know what, Rachel, you've already got something that's invaluable. And I can say this from experience. If someone walks in to an agency and they have a personal project that's in their portfolio, that agency's more inclined to hire them than anyone
Yeah,
else
yeah, it's kind of
because
crazy. People are
it's
responding to
self-motivated.
it. Yeah. They're like, "Whoa, you're making a
It's,
comic? It's on Webtoons?" I was like, "Yeah, it's not
yeah,
that great, but it seems to impress people to say that and to
yeah. Well,
just
what it is the mindset is that this is the person that's going to work with their own agency. This is a person that doesn't need art directed. They're already art directing themselves. So when they hire people, they don't want someone that they're going to have to keep on looking over their shoulder at. Lucasfilm isn't going to hire anyone like that. They want people that they can say, here's an idea. I'll check in with you at the end of the week. That's
yeah.
what they want. They
Yeah, that's
don't
what I
want to
like
be,
too. I don't like
yeah,
someone looking over my shoulder. like,
yeah,
you gotta figure out how you like to work too. Like different people work
that's
differently.
right.
Yeah.
So every personal project is always a boon. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, it shows people that you're the kind of person that can take an idea and run with it.
Yeah.
And anyone else is just an employee that will just have to be nursed all the way through a project, which is no good. They'll end up having to be let go. I see people get let go all the time, all the time. When I worked in that pub as an analogy, for instance, remember I told you I didn't know how to add up. I didn't never pulled a pint in my life. The guy knew that. When I walked in the bar, I'd never been worked in a pub before, and I walked into the pub, and the guy says, "Pull me a pint." I'd never pulled a pint before. Just grabbing onto the hose itself, onto the handle itself, was
Yeah.
alien to me. And I thought, okay, uh, get the pint. And I pulled it like that really fast. And it just filled up with froth. It was a pint of froth,
Oh,
right?
you just poured it
Because I
in there.
thought, just get it, and the guy says, that's quite a big head you've got on that. I says, yeah, I'd like to get the head on first. And then
yeah.
I pulled it slower, and the head just fell over the end like that. And I learned how to pull a pint
Yeah.
slowly. And he hired me. He knew I'd never worked in a pub before. He wasn't worried about that. Anyone can pull a pint after 10 minutes. All he was hiring me for was somebody that had gumption, that walked in there, that wanted to do, that had the idea that I can do this,
Yeah.
right? And it was basically personality. I was a young guy walked in. He wanted a young guy behind the bar that
Yeah.
was going to chat
I
up the
mean,
girls and
sometimes
stuff.
like that's all you need as a bartender. As
Yeah.
long as you're
Oh,
like
it's
fun.
yeah, it's no coincidence all the bartenders are good looking. There's no
Yeah.
coincidence,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? They want to just bring the punters in.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've got the gumption, you've got, a huge boon. If you're going in there to be an employee and you have the mindset where you're going to grump all the time, you're going to get fired because they just replace you with it. Small cogs are easily replaced. And
Yeah.
that's a small cog mindset. So a big cog mindset is what we want. Eternal optimism, and hold on to your heart. The dream that you have is still what keeps your heart beating. If you let that go, then you are an employee again. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. But if you're going to be an employee, keep your heart beating all the time. Go,
Yeah.
this is getting me further and further or closer and closer to what I want to do. And I'm learning all the time as I do it. As you teach, you're learning. As I'm teaching here, uh, I'm learning from past artists like John Buscema, who I loved, and I'm teaching how to draw like him here in this point. And so being a teacher really helps you to be a better artist, as we said before. But we better take questions, guys. Let's have some questions, and I'll look at Randall's work.
We don't have too many questions.
Oh,
on
we
this
got one
Is there
from
no questions? Yeah,
Mr. Randall. What if you
yeah.
don't know what your dream is in response to what you were just
Oh,
saying?
that's a
Ah,
massive question. That's a massive question. Well, do you guys want to tackle it?
I don't know. Like, this is like, well, like, there's like one thing I might have said it on a podcast before, but whatever makes you weird as a kid will probably make you successful as an adult. So you can kind of think of that.
Yeah. Steven
But
Spielberg's a good example.
yeah, yeah. Like, what was like when like you were. What would you be proud to be if, like, 10-year-old you? Like, how would you impress the 10-year-old version of you? I guess is where I
Yeah,
would start there. What would your answer
yeah,
be to that, PJ?
yeah. The same answer. Because what happens when you're a kid is you're taught to be creative, right? So you're in kindergarten, they say, be creative. Here's some paints and paint away. And it's a wonderful thing. And then we come out of kindergarten and we're taught not to be creative. We're taught to be industrial. How the Greeks would have looked at school after they invented school to be creative and have a curious mind is incredible. What they would be, they'd be appalled. So to have the curious mind, like Rachel just said there, be curious. Ask yourself, I mean, you're drawing, right? So you've got a curious mind, and that hasn't been beaten out. So if you continue to draw, you'll continue to be curious. And if you continue to be curious, you'll continue to be creative. If you're not curious, your creativity's gone. I remember the worst insult I ever heard from someone was about a politician. They said, I've never met such an incurious man. And I thought that shows in every fiber of that man that he's
Yeah,
incurious. He cares about nothing. He seems to have no soul at all. So if
yeah,
you even have the thought, if we don't have a dream, what is the dream? You're being curious. You're being curious. Ask yourself what you love. What do you love? And another thing is, I've always disliked multitasking. I always didn't like it at all. And I realized later that that was actually a strength. Because if you try and do everything at once, you water everything down. If you set your mind to a task like Moth and Spike, for instance, you're involved in it 100%, and it grows and grows and grows. And you must know, Rachel, that the time just, you can't believe where the time's gone
yeah.
because you've
Somehow I
enjoyed every
started
minute.
on it like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang it. I thought I'd be a
Yeah.
lot further by now. That's another thing I wrote down for what I learned from this podcast in 2024. It was like the attitude of just like, you got plenty of time. You know,
Got plenty of time.
like I've been trying to figure out like what is it that I could improve on, and there's that feeling where you're always like running, 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 running. Why isn't this working? Run, run, run,
Yes.
run. And that doesn't
Okay.
really get you anywhere.
Doesn't
You're
get
just
you
like
anywhere. It's a
slamming
mouse
your head in the wall, and so you
or
gotta
a
like
mouse on a
slow
wheel.
down.
You know the mouse on the wheel? The
Yeah,
mouse on the He's
yeah,
just come back to the same spot all the time. And that's what happens with that kind of thinking. So what I would say, was that Randall's question?
yeah. That's Randall.
What I would say to Randall, do yourself a desert island trick. Ask yourself if there was three things that you would want to be, and you can't be any other thing. Three things. What are they? Not hundreds and thousands of things, just three things. What is it? You've only got three choices. Do you want to be a film director? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to work as a fantasy artist, or do you want to work as a life draw teacher? What is it you want to do? You can only have three choices. And once you narrow down those three choices, ask yourself which one of them, if someone said you can only have one now, and that's it. There it is right there. Now, if that doesn't get you there, continue drawing and look at all the inspiration in the world. Look at this bookshelf behind me. Oh, you can't see it because it's being zoomed in. I've
Yeah,
got books all around me. If you ever feel like you've got nothing left in the tank, just go pick up an art book and look at it. And before you know it, you're going, what am I looking at this for? I got to draw. That happens all the time. So look at inspiration. Look at it.
yeah.
It's everywhere. Just find it. It's there.
One of
I
the
mean, look
other
at,
things. You can keep
yeah.
going.
No, I
Well,
was just thinking, because look at Randall's drawing on the side here. Look how beautiful it is. And I'm saying, Randall, surely you want to be an animator. I mean, it's written all over that drawing right there, even in the pencils. Ask Randall, is that I think Randall is interested in animation a lot. If you ask him that and then you carry on with your thought, Rachel, I'll have a look through Randall's stuff.
Yeah, like one of the other things I had written down for like what like I learned in 2024 from this podcast, specifically the episodes. It's like with you, Julie, and Steve Houston, that
Yeah.
art and science are not that far apart. And
Yeah.
those interests seem to like kind of mix together. It's like the same kind of
Yeah.
mind. Like I like digging into Da Vinci because he's a really great example of that. But like the
He
same
is,
kind
yeah.
of mind that like possesses you to like figure the world out through drawing. I think the
Yeah.
scientist is kind of doing something similar. They're trying to figure something out, and it's something that
Yeah.
like we don't know yet, and they're trying to figure out what it is, and that
That's right.
it's creativity that gets you there.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to people who think they might be stupid as well. My my teachers thought I was stupid. The math teacher thought I was a dunce, but he really liked me. We were good friends, me and the math teacher. I wasn't a dunce. I had no interest in math, and I had very little interest in anything. My writing teacher thought I was a genius. Everyone else, all the academic stuff, I'm a dunce. So imagine I walk into one class, teacher goes, "This kid's got no brain." Walk into another class, teacher says, "This guy's a star." And that's what happened. So I was a star in writing and I was a star in science.
Yeah.
I love science. So those two things. Everything else, imagine those teachers. Look at the perception. So the teachers walking along the playground, they go, "There's Jones, he's an idiot." And other teachers walking, "There's Jones, he's a genius."
Yeah.
We're not stupid. If you can make marks like Randall's making here, that's genius stuff
Yeah, I like
happening
that
right there.
bottom left one. I like both. I like both the
Yeah.
bottom left and the bottom right.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Yeah,
both
me too.
cool.
I mean, look at all the exploration here, and that's a good example there for that Randall's showing us. Throw some mud and see what sticks. Randall's up here. It's a kind of style going in one direction. It's going in a different direction here. It keeps coming back here again, and then over here, we're really starting to see, I think anyway, Randall fly, and it's almost always evident in these quick sketches because the quick sketches don't give you time to procrastinate. They tell you what you want to do and they tell you what you don't know. That's what a quick sketch does. So you stop at the parts that are difficult and go, "Why can't I do this?" Now you've learned something. You can learn on your own just by doing quick sketch. You go, "I don't know this." And then you go to a good teacher. And that's why teachers to me are the kings of the earth. And scientists and doctors, to me, I revere them above everyone. So basically science and arts, I revere them way up there because they do so much great stuff to bring the whole world up. They lift everyone up. And that's another thing we should talk about too, abundance, is that there's enough for everyone. Never feel jealous for an artist. Say, "Oh, that artist, I'm better than them. Why are they doing better than me?" Well, just learn what it is that you don't do that they do. They're doing something. If you really are better than they are, well, then find out what it is that they're doing that you're not doing that makes them more elevated and learn and love them for it because they've just taught you something. So we can all lift each other up. And when I go to an employer and they try and crush your soul, saying, "This is the agency, don't talk to anyone outside of this. This is all a big secret." Of course, you have to do that in movies, but basically, an insular person that says we don't want to share is for someone for me to walk away from. And that's why Proco's so wonderful. When I went on to Proco's, when I first talked to Proco and the team about how this works, and they says, "Yeah, you can share on your platform, on our platform, doesn't matter." I went, "That's a collaboration right there," and I'm in. I mean, I
Yeah.
was in, like Jerry Maguire, I was in right there. Nothing else to be said. I was in. That's
Yeah.
that's abundance.
Well, like,
That's
and then he also seems to be like coming from a place of just like genuinely trying to teach as many people how
yeah,
to draw like quality stuff for an affordable price.
Mm-hmm.
He's not
yeah,
trying to make money as the first principle, at least. Like
yeah,
it's like the actual substance comes first, and I think that's part of it too.
yeah, absolutely. There's no grift at all. And
Yeah.
everything you hear about get rich quick, run for the hills. It's always been that. It's been that forever. Things take time, but we've got time. Like we're talking about, let's say you're 50 or 60. You've got time. Now you might say, well, what if I die next year? Well, you've got something, you don't know that, you know, and if you do, then you're gone. So you've always got time. There's tons of time for artists, right? So you can go, because you can start at 60 and be 100 and you've done 40 years of art, because it's not something where you have to lift a bag of cement and throw it over your shoulder. It's not that kind of work. And I have older people come into my class all the time with arthritis, and they go, I can't draw anymore. I says, well, here, try the gestural hand. And now they're drawing one simple thing because they've been drawing like this all their life. But that they can't do that anymore. That they can do. And now they're drawing. They cannot believe that their hand now is an instrument for art, where they thought that instrument was gone. So, art is for, you've always got time. Imagine you're 20. Jeez. I always laugh when students say, I'm 25, I'm never going to make it. Have you taken your diaper off yet?
Yeah.
25? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is there a single wrinkle on your skin anywhere on your body? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you've always got time. You're 36, I was in a tree. There you go. You got time. Oh, you carry on, Rachel and Melanie.
We got some responses from Randall.
Yes?
He said he
Randall.
loves animation, but he doesn't know if he wants to be an animator because
yeah.
he said he dropped out of the animation program he was in. He failed the layout class, was knocked down to part-time student, ran out of money, and then
Okay.
he said
Well,
I didn't believe I had enough passion for animating, something I haven't done much of, in order to swallow the nasty layout classes.
Well, that's good info. Find out what you don't like. Like, I'll tell you what, I have tons of people in animation jump ship because they're doing rigging. So they rig things, they're working in 3D animation. They thought it was going to be much more creative than that. And they jump ship and they come into my class. And what they end up learning to do is how to draw characters with expression and things like that, which isn't in the rig program. So they realized then that they loved animation, but they didn't know how much there was in the animation process. And some of those processes are for one mind, and some of those processes
There's
for
a
another
lot of
mind.
technical stuff that goes into animation, but it's also just problem solving. Like, you have an idea, I want to animate, a character doing, like, walking a dog. It's just like a set of problems to solve, to like how to get the background to work, what the character should look like, what program should. It's just a series of solving problems, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Randall might like to character develop. And you know what the upside of that is that the character development people are the highest paid. Well, in the scale of things, one of the highest paid people is the key animator, the key artist. And so you might want to be a key artist. Now, that's a hard position to get into because basically a key artist usually evolves from being a minor artist, being an in-betweener. The good news is in-betweeners are practically gone now, good and bad news. So a good way into animation was to be an in-betweener. You get two drawings, one with the character stops walking, and where the character starts walking, and you do the in-betweens, how he got from here to there. So that in-betweener stuff is now being done by computer, which is great for an artist that's sick of doing in-betweens, because really we all just want to do the start and finish, because that's where the action is. And the in-between is just get in there. So you could still go in with a portfolio full of production designer. For instance, that's a job all to itself. And the production designers at Disney were just, especially on Pinocchio, were just amazing. And they never animated anything. Like Claire, can you guys remember Mary Blair, I think it was?
I'm not
in the old Disney studios. Yeah, Mary Blair, and
I'm not sure.
And there was a Swedish one called Ludgren or something like that. He was brilliant, and they designed all of the backgrounds for those movies and also the characters as well. The original Pinocchio was really strange looking. He looked more like the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio.
Yeah.
But Disney thought that was too sophisticated, grown up looking to grab a younger audience, and so we developed Pinocchio into something else. They started with that look and ended up with a different look.
Yeah.
You just got to start.
I do like that model for Pinocchio. I've done I've copied that a lot. I like some
Which
of the
one,
old
Rachel?
Disney. The old Disney one,
Mm-hmm.
the 2D animated
Oh,
Pinocchio.
oh, the Pinocchio. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That's my favorite Walt Disney movie
Yeah, I
by a
like
long shot.
my favorite animator is Milk Call. I really like him. He did the Jungle
He's brilliant.
Book. He did Robin Hood. He did all the ones I liked as a kid, and I grew up and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is all one guy. And I was
yeah. He's
like,
one of the nine old men, isn't he? He's
yeah,
one of the nine.
yeah,
Yeah, he was brilliant. My favorite was Fred
yeah.
Moore, who actually redesigned Pinocchio and redesigned Mickey Mouse to be what we see today. He was my favorite, Fred Moore. In fact, there's a lot of Fred Moore look to this. And that's why they went to life drawing, to learn the fluidity of a body and how to simplify that down. Yeah, I can see it in Randall's work there.
Yeah,
I'm
Randall
looking
says
at
he just
videos.
wants to get better. That's all he wants to do right
Let's
now.
just do that. Just do that. And I'm looking at Vadim's progress here, by the way, on the screen as we're going through here. And like Rachel said, the fundamentals are so important. Just every once in a while, slow down and do a render. I'm not big on render. If you do too many of them, then you're slowed right down to your crawl. But, it's worth doing one and then doing lots of gestures to see what you don't know and go back and do a render again. But don't get stuck in render hell, Vadim. That's my first big thing. See how much value you can take out of something. Make that your goal, I think, is a good thing. How much value can you take out of this, for instance, now? This drawing. And I think you'll find it stronger with less value in it. See, that's stronger. This is getting stronger now.
Yeah, I
There's
think
less
he
value. Just
uploaded like
right.
a bunch of pictures to show his progress through the
This is the
year.
progress.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was one
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah. So there's progress there. Look, see the progress from here. Now, to an untrained eye, that probably looks better than the next one, right? But to a trained eye, this is a
yeah,
progress.
that
This is
one.
going forward because you're reducing the values. You're going down to that no 10 idea with just two values, but you three, four, and you're doing great stuff, you know?
Yeah, one of
And that,
Proco's first assignments is to use 5 values and no soft edges, no curved
yeah,
lines, only straight
Mm-hmm.
lines, 5 values.
yeah. See soft edges? They're the death of art, soft edges. And that was the danger of airbrush. When I was airbrushing, everything was soft edges. It was very, very hard for me to undo the damage that did. It was very on hard. It was very hard to undo it because when you did use a mask, let's say you painted a figure, you had to use a mask to cut the outside of the figure so it wouldn't bleed onto the background because it was a spray. And so what you did when there was a horrible moment when you took the mask off and now you had a really hard edge figure and a soft inside. So the figure looked like they were made of marshmallow. And that hurt me for years. And every one of us, when the computers come out, every one of us stopped our airbrushes. It was like, in the apocalypse in the movies, where you can just see all the store stuff still sitting on the counters. That's what it was like. We all stopped our airbrushes when Photoshop came out. And I went, and my airbrush still has paint in it and the back off of it. And I went to see a friend, I remember, and he had framed his in a glass box, still with the back. We always took the back off. The back was pointless. You know how like we have this digital pen now? We always took the back off the airbrush because it always clogged with paint and you had to keep pulling the needle out and cleaning it. And so there we all were with our airbrushes with the backs off in glass cages. Mine's just dust under the house. So soft edges, that's why I say beware of render hell, because it's a soft edge nightmare. That's what render does. So Proco, obviously, great advice there. Try hard edges, and that'll certainly show you what you're hiding behind, which is
Yeah,
usually a soft edge to hide your mistakes. But
yeah,
that's great progress from Vadim there, going
yeah.
through. I'll
That's a
just
nice
skip them
portrait.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you put this up, Thomas Cole?
Well, so this is a series of paintings that I saw at the National Gallery in D.C. by
Oh
Thomas
yeah,
Cole. It's called
I
The
love Thomas
Voyage
Cole.
of Life, and
Yeah.
I thought it was a good note to maybe end on.
Oh,
Thought it was a great conversation
hide your
piece.
eyes. Hide your eyes.
What?
I'm
Oh,
a big fan of Thomas Cole, but here's the thing. Thomas Cole doesn't know a stick about perspective.
oh,
Not a thing.
I wouldn't
Have
have
you seen
even
Thomas
picked up on it.
Cole? Have a look at Thomas Cole's chalice that he's done. Oh my God.
Alright.
Your eyes will be stained forever. I don't know what it's called, but it's a big chalice. And
Okay.
every time I see it, I go, see, there's the thing. You can be really great at one thing and no one will ever know. And
Yeah.
he just Hasn't got a clue about perspective
Well,
Or
the
at
way
all.
these
Farmer's
were
Chalice.
presented was cool. They're all big and
They're huge.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
huge. They were, I don't know, four
Yeah,
foot tall and at least, and
yeah,
they were on four walls.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
yeah.
kind of walk through a hallway.
It was like a octagonal room.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a
that
word.
sounds right. The Hudson River School are magnificent,
Yeah.
and there's a massive one in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and it fills the room. It's one. It's not Thomas Cole, but it's one of the Hudson River School. So here's the thing I'm envious of America is that it's just a landscape of opportunity to see great art everywhere. So if you're ever in quite close to you guys, actually, the Brandywine district, just go to that Brandywine Museum and see all of the wonderful stuff that they did up there. But Thomas Cole and those guys, you'll see them in the Met and sprinkled everywhere, actually. When I go to America, I always ask people, is there a museum nearby?
Oh, we got
Because
a
they
real
did,
good one in Richmond.
oh, really good.
Yeah.
What happened is the likes of Sargent and stuff, they came to America because things were getting a little bit abstract in Europe and their work was seen as dusty and old. And the likes of Bouguereau and stuff went to America where they were still appreciated. And America offloaded all these brilliant artworks and kept them. Like the guy from Candid Camera in the 1960s, he owned practically all of Alma Tadema's work because he bought it for a song. He bought it for practically no money at all because the British didn't want it anymore. They thought it was taff. He
Huh.
went, no, not anymore.
Uh,
Don't we're for that. We're in the impressionist
yeah.
world now. And he bought it all. So the Americans are still holding on to that great
Yeah, the
romantic,
one by us, that's like one
romanticism.
of my favorite sections is like I guess like the English like modern or like I guess golden age sort of stuff with Sargent and Monet isn't like in the same area.
Yeah,
And there's
yeah,
a bunch of those. What was
yeah. And I
I
want
need to go
to
back.
put a caveat on there. I'm not the
Um,
closed mind that says I don't like impressionism. I think it's fantastic.
yeah,
I love
Robert
that.
Henri was another one I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking. I like him a lot. I don't know
Yeah,
why
they try.
either. I just like the way he paints. I don't like his subjects, but I like the way he
Yeah,
paints.
there's a great moment there. So if you keep your mind open, you like the way he paints. You like the
Yeah.
way he put that on, right? And I'm the same with Van Gogh. I've got a big book of Van Gogh downstairs. When I was younger, I didn't care for it. I went, he doesn't know how to draw. Look at that,
Oh,
it's a stupid drawing.
I like him.
And
Yeah.
now, yeah, and now I go, wow, look what he did.
Yeah.
He said, academia be damned. I'm going to put a color down like this, and I'm
Well,
going to put a stroke down.
it's a fun little spot in art history too when you see that he painted most of that stuff from like like he was like in a hospital for mental stuff. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
in like a he was like in a psych ward. Paint like the Starry Night was out the window of like him in a psych ward. It's like it's just kind of
Yeah,
interesting. Like who's the one who did Saturn eating his son?
Oh,
yeah,
Goya.
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
that's another little
Yeah.
lovely part of art history is
yeah,
him painting those crazy things on the walls that are terrifying. Like I don't necessarily like the way it's painted, but it's like the story behind it that I'm very interested in, and I guess the psychology behind that.
yeah. They often say artists are mad, and it's because there's been so many of them. I mean, Richard Dad, his masterpiece, the Fairy Teller's Masterstroke, I think it's called, and he painted that in an insane asylum because he killed his dad. There's I didn't even see the pun there. I think he's called Richard Dad. Richard Dad killed his dad,
Whoa.
and he ended up in a psychiatric ward.
Wow.
But the great thing was they give him paints. I don't think he meant to. I think he's just totally gone. And he was
Mm-hmm.
in. They give him his paints, and he painted the most detailed picture in the world, just totally focused on that thing. So he was on the spectrum, you know. It was definitely
Yeah.
something that made him focus on one thing and continue to focus that way. And it was called the Fairy Tailor's Masterstroke. I think I'll have a quick look at it, or you guys can. I no longer have to worry about that. You guys are the art agents. Richard Dad, I think he's called. It's a long time since I've looked at that piece. But if you can find that, I'm looking at Melanie's work here. I was just talking the other day about something that about we were talking about portraits and how to plan them out. And I was reminded by another artist about something I learned a long time ago from an ancient source. And it was if you can't plot out your head, find a breakdown point. So we always do this. We're always doing this, right? To break it down, which is great. Now, you know I love it. So you find the center of the eyes, underneath the nose, underneath the lip, and underneath the chin. And they all should line up, even if they're going in perspective like that. You can do massive perspective and make it look like Mount Rushmore, whatever you like. But here's a moment here. If you can always find out where that Z shape is, like that, then that'll take you around and be able to break up. So you don't put the eyes too far apart or too close together. That'll always give you a moment where you can break that whole thing down. So you can always see that. And from a different position, it's going to look like this. So the eyebrows now are not in a perspective that they started in. You're going, oh, we're starting to turn now. We're starting to turn. That Z starts to change its shape. So look for that Z all the time. If it starts to change its shape down here like that, then the head's starting to move downwards. So always look for that little Z, and that'll tell you right away where the head is, what it's doing. You can use that as a little anchor point breakdown anywhere at all. Let me bring up one of my own artworks and have a look. See, because it's just sitting there, isn't it? So look at the Z there. Do you see it? Z, it's like this now. See it? You can find it anywhere at all in a picture. And it'll help you to just understand things simply. It's just doing its classic thing there, showing you we're seeing underneath at that point. So use that. There's a little tip just from the other day when I was talking about it.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that before.
There's a total profile there. Z. So that's a good way to plot out your eyes and things and to see where things are. And it's those kind of things that you get prompted to after a while. That's why I love being a teacher. You get prompted after a while. How would you find this little thing? And you go, oh yeah, I've been doing that for years, and I totally forgot that people needed to know it. You know, you just forget that that's now in your, subconscious art engine, and it's not necessarily in anyone else's yet. So get it out there. Being a teacher will help you do that. That's why I thrive on questions. There we go. And just looking at Pedro, look at Pedro's.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
I love Mexican art. I was down in San Diego, and I went down to San Diego Old Town, which is right on the border of Mexico. And I just love seeing
it's
all
fun.
that
Yeah, colors.
Day of the Dead stuff. Yeah. Look at that forever.
Yeah, when we went up to DC, went to that art museum, we hit a bunch of the museums around DC. And just so happened on the same day, it was like this Hispanic parade. It was just like all nationalities of Hispanic people. And it was cool. Like, that was like the highlight.
That was probably the funnest part of being in DC.
We were like we didn't expect that at all, but that was really fun. The big dresses and the big hats. There was these guys dressed as tigers with whips.
Yeah,
like, oh.
Yeah, they were cracking real whips.
Yeah, I was like,
someone's gonna get hurt.
Real whips.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was there, they're all dancing, and it reminded me of my own Irish culture. Is that, when I went to England, I was really surprised to see that the pubs were just filled with young people, 20s, things like that. And if you saw an old person come in, you go, that's strange. Whereas in Ireland, you go into a pub and everyone's old, young, kids even, It's just that. And I saw that when I was in San Diego Old Town. I realized that it was very like the Irish culture. Everyone was out for a night. There was an old guy there and he was so cool. He was still slim. He was out there and he was with his girlfriend, and she's like 70. And they were both dancing there, and they vibe from it because they were playing Santana. Yeah, they were playing Santana, and if you've ever heard Santana, it's really exciting. It's music, and they were all dancing to it. And I found myself come out of my shell, and I was going, and even though I was alone, I was starting to do a little bit of that.
Yeah,
and it just brought me back to Ireland.
Yeah,
so I love that whole thing.
I
just want to do a quick. Yeah, I want to just do a quick draw here for Pedro, because I was talking to Pedro just the other day. And Pedro, I have an apology. I was talking about, I found a new hand model, like a model that you can move fingers. And Pedro and I had ordered from America, and Pedro says, why don't you get and then I realized that I could have got it on Amazon Australia the next day. And Pedro says, get 3. And I didn't hear him. And I says, yeah, I got 2. And I felt terrible when I looked at the replay. Pedro, I just didn't hear you. It was just the satellite. It echoes sometimes. I just didn't hear you. And with Melanie and Rachel as well, sometimes I don't hear you guys. And it's not a hearing problem. It's just this. And this
Yeah.
mic sometimes just kills things on me, just not because you guys are coming from the speaker over here, and this has noise diffusion on it. And sometimes if something's a little bit low, it doesn't get caught, and then I hear it later. So apologies to anyone that ever thinks that I didn't, listen to them or anything. I just sometimes miss it. So I
Yeah.
missed that Pedro, but Pedro was drawing. He was basically drawing fundamentals, and I was just saying that's great, Pedro, because look, he's used it here. He's actually used that. Look, he's used that bone, radius bone, and the big player in it. He's used this big bonation business right there to get that all going. So basically, you feel the anatomy in here. There's all your extensors. Look why the Disney artists go to light show, so they can see this. So the brachioradialis bulge here is underneath that little jacket. And the pronator bone, the radius bone, is giving us that moment. So even with cloth there, look what Pedro was able to do. He was able to bring a great bit of authority into that by understanding the anatomy underneath. So I wanted to call that out because I know that he was doing an anatomy model because we were looking at it the other day. I did a catch up just to spruik my anatomy of styles course again, guys. The first one of 2025 is coming up this Saturday. And what I do is 6 months later, I catch up with anyone that wants to come in and just see how they were going over those 6 months. And that was the 6 months call for Pedro and the gang, Chuck and everyone come in, and Yuhan and stuff. They all come in the other day, Yuhan. And we were all talking about this, and he had done an anatomy study to go with this. And that's why it was so exciting to see this, that he's basically placed a cartoon on top of it.
Yeah.
So,
I dig how he drew the skull and stylized it. I'd maybe
yeah, that's
watch out with
yeah,
the nose, maybe pull the nose up a little bit from the teeth though.
yeah,
That's
that's
about
brilliant,
it.
though,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
like how
Yeah, I
you
would
did it.
say
Yeah.
you bring it up there. But at the same time, yeah, I like it better, actually. That's a good call there, Melanie. But try it, try everything. It was very fresh, the fact that it was right down there. But that's what you do. You push it till it breaks. So push it, it's fresh, but is it still going to work? Like Steve Houston talks about that all the time. He says you can make a building out of jello. It's going to be fresh looking, but it's going to fall down. That's a great analogy for it. But try it, put some jello buildings in there and see how they go. And always see if you can imagine the skull without the hat. Make sure that you're placing that hat. So perspective all the time, realizing how things go into the body and back from the body means I could tilt that hat right back like this, see? Like that, based on if I was to pull that hat back, knowing where that skull was going as a big boom. So everything is, it's all in there. Could we tilt that a little bit more? Possibly. But you see how it all goes. Got this new Wacom tablet and just feeling it. So I'm not getting my strokes in as I normally would, but I'm getting there now, I think. Starting to feel it. So yeah, if you've always got that idea of where that brachioradialis is heading, toward that thumb, really help you design carriage. Not just a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
That and more is everything we need to know going forward. Just keep on learning. If you keep on learning, you can't lose. You really can't.
And keep drawing these characters.
Keep drawing those. That's a great character there, Pedro. Give him a name. As well, if you're just drawing characters, give them a name and start with anything. Like I have my students, they're sitting there. The first thing they say is Mr. Bones, and I go, you can do better. But at least they had Mr. Bones,
Yeah.
right? Mr. Bones. So Barney Bones, that's better, isn't it? Bit of alliteration. Barney
I don't
Bones.
know.
It's not very Mexican,
I don't know
is
if
it?
I like that
Exactly.
name.
Exactly. Now where do we go? Well, it's not very Mexican, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Burrito Bones?
yeah. I don't know. He kind of looks like a Rocky to me. I don't know why.
Like a rock.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
name that kind of. I don't know.
Give him a name. Once you've got
Yeah.
a name, it has life. It's not just something now. It's got life. And once you ask yourself, Burrito Bones, does he like burritos? Maybe that's why it's called Burrito Bones. So give him some burritos in his pocket. You can create a character out of anything as long as you give him a name and then give him a personality. Ask yourself what they like, what they fear, what are they scared of? What do they love? What breaks their heart? Ask yourself all those questions for a character, and you can build characters from scratch, and they will always be beloved. Pinocchio was beloved because he wanted to be a real boy. One idea. He wanted to be a real boy. I mean, doesn't your heart just melt the second you hear that? He wanted to be a real boy. I think that when I look at my little pup, I think you want to be a real girl, don't you? She thinks she's a girl. She thinks she's a person all the time. It breaks my heart. You know? If she thinks I'm not coming from the walk, she runs back up the stairs again and looks in and goes, "Where are you? We're going for a walk now." You know, it's a full personality. It's a real personality. So give them personality. Even little creatures that can't speak have personalities. What do they love? All right, that's me as far as progress. The progress is looking great there, guys. I'd love to see more Rachel and Melanie stuff, but let's do that for another podcast to
Okay.
see where Rachel and Melanie are going. Well, we'll finish with Thomas Cole, I believe.
Okay.
I think.
A lovely conversation piece. They go in an order.
Yeah,
like
they're
one.
All right, okay.
sequential.
Haven't spoiled it. I forgot to record, by the way, so it's all in your hands, guys.
I think.
Oh yeah,
we
that's the
got
first
it.
one.
Yeah, we got it.
One little.
That's I just
Yeah. I have to cut this.
that's the first one.
I think
All right, take it away. Tell me all about this.
So, well, there's 4 images in the series, and it goes from childhood to youth to manhood to whatever the last one is, the final chapter. So he's really depicting a lifetime in these, and he uses different storytelling elements, to give the personality of each segment of your life. So
Yeah.
this one is childhood. There's a baby in a boat with an angel. She's I would assume it's kind of an analogy for emerging from the womb. He's coming into the world.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. That's very good, Melanie.
Yeah. So
That was really good.
yeah, everything's kind of hopeful and exciting and new.
coming
and,
out of the cave.
Coming out of the cave.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's starting his journey in this one, and in
That's
the next
cool.
one, it's youth,
Okay, let's look at that.
and the angel is setting him free. So he's a young man. He's on his boat by himself. The angel is on the land, setting him loose. There's a big castle in the sky, so he has big hopes. He has dreams, and the next one is
I love the foliage. Oh no, it disappeared.
this is manhood.
This
and,
doesn't look as fun.
I would say
Not
this
as
is
fun.
like
Manhood isn't fun.
Yeah,
it's not
let's go
fun.
back.
yeah. If there's a bell curve, this would be the 2 segments.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's funny because I thought that was a girl. I didn't know that was a man. This one. I thought that
Does
was a
look-
girl.
Yeah, I guess.
Very effeminate. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe
Back in-
he's
back
not a
in those
man
days.
yet. He's just a.
Yeah. All right, he's got the beard now, so he's still wearing the same gear. He must be poor. He's still got the same dress on. Okay, so things haven't turned out so well for him. Okay, what happened next?
Well, so this is just the part of the journey where I feel like it's like the part that we've been talking about where you go through your struggles, and in a weird way it's the best part.
It is.
But
It always is.
in this painting, the angel is watching out for him. So she's nowhere to be found on this plane, but she's still there.
Yeah, he's like, where are you?
Oh.
Yeah, he feels forsaken, but he's about to hit the rapids, so that's going to be quite a ride. But
Yeah.
and then there's some kind of weird ghostly stuff happening.
Well, there's
And-
faces in the
yeah,
clouds.
I noticed that today when I was looking at it, and I don't know what the
Yeah.
heck that is, but
Yeah. Echoes of doom. Look at the
Yeah.
tree too.
yeah, it's all
Look at the
splintered.
eye, the nose, the big mouth, and it's got it's got an arm
Yeah.
here.
And the top of it's all broken up, and
I wish
Yeah, it's
there
been hit
was-
by lightning.
It's so scary.
so yeah, I think one of my favorite things about this series is just his use of visual elements to tell the story. So
Yeah.
this one is
Yeah.
a big change from the last one, and then the final one, I forget what it's called, but old age. And so the seas are calm, there's not a lot left in the foliage. There's very little, it's kind of the end, and she's taking him home.
He's like, thank God.
Yeah.
It's over.
Look at that awful tangent. of the head against the cloth there. The hand.
I don't know if you really like Thomas Cole, Patrick.
He stuck to that angel. It stuck to his face. No, I love Thomas Cole. We forget that they were young. You know, these guys were still learning how to paint. I think I'm not sure about Thomas Cole, but I feel that he was young. But he definitely missed perspective class. I mean, he hadn't got a clue about
It's
perspective.
got that atmosphere.
Did you find that picture?
Yeah, I think it's called the someone Jay Renzella said the Titan's Goblet, so that's what the painting's called. If
What's
anyone's
it look
curious.
like?
You did prepare your eyes for it. Prepare to feel salt in your eyes when you see it, because it's horrific. And he did it huge too. That was what's so funny
Whoa,
about
that
it.
is a big
He did
goblet.
it gigantic. He did it gigantic. And did anyone not say to him,
Yeah,
"You
did
could
no
have
one
done
see
that a
the
bit small"?
preliminary drawing?
Yes, let's see some perspective drawing on that. Perspective matters if you're going to do it, that is. All right, that's a nice little setup from Vadim there, isn't it? Look at how beautiful that is.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
really
wow.
nice.
It's very clean.
It's very clean. And another thing is you don't need much space to be an artist. That's another great thing about art. You know, you can say, oh, I can't be an industrial engineer because I need a big factory to work in. But an artist doesn't need to, you know? And that's a false analogy. I didn't even think about that. You can be anything you want in your garage. But being an artist, all you need is your knees and a piece of paper. I used to sit under the kitchen table and use my knees as an easel. It's so easy. Use your own self as an easel. And it's a pretty good easel, the knees, just sitting there.
I remember you telling us a story, Patrick, about how you got into your desk. Something like that. You,
What's that?
I don't remember this.
man, I'm trying to remember how you said it, but
It's interesting. I want to hear this.
I forget. I'm trying to remember the conversation, but you said that it was either to like get out of your bed or like get into your desk or something. Wherever you were living, it was such close quarters. You like had to like.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I used to live in a bed sit. And when I was in London, here's perspective for you. When I lived in London, I shared a room when I finally get off of that building site, I shared a room with four other guys. So you get to know people. So I knew the building site guys. So I had two different lives. So I had the building site life and I had the artist life. And on the building site life, I loved the guys, but they weren't my people, you know? I still loved them. I was in a world and I loved them for what they were, but I was never going to stay there, right? So that was a macho world. I remember having a fist fight with a guy when I had a bag of cement on my shoulder, right? I mean, I was tough. I had a bag of cement on my shoulder. I'm walking out and this guy punched me in the face. I says, what the hell was that for? And you have no time to react, so I punched him back in the face. And the two of us are fighting each other, and I've got a bag of cement on my shoulder the whole time. I mean, that was...
Whoa.
The next day I'm in a pub. I'm in a pub with these delicate souls that if someone barked at them, they'd all jump.
Yeah,
You know, it was like
it's a bit of a
just the
culture
weirdest-
shock.
It was the weirdest world, right?
Yeah.
So I went from that. I had to break that toughness because when I went into teaching, I was very tough because I come from that environment. And then I realized that toughness is it's not a nice thing. It's actually totally destructive. I'm on a quest now, like that guy in that world, of no violence in my life, no conflict. That stuff was just pointless. Frank Frazetta said it because he came up tough too. He says, "What a waste of life that was." Because he used to go around looking for fights in alleyways and stuff to show how tough he was. It was basically a defense mechanism to make sure he didn't get beaten up. So the bullies are scared, really. They're scared of getting beaten up themselves. So anyway, that one, Rachel, I ended up in a bed sit. And when I saw the bed sit, I would have made it. And then looking back on it, I go, how sad was that? Because I had made it because I had a room that had a sink in it,
Oh, wow.
right? And the sink was right butted up against the bed. So I could lean forward in the bed and get a cup of water.
Oh, wow. You don't have to go that far.
And I thought it was amazing. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, fantastic. Maybe I can get a cup of water from the bottom of my bed. And now I look back on that, I go, that was tragic.
Yeah. My
How
thing
tragic
is
was that?
a washing machine.
Oh my
I
god.
dream of that.
Having to go to a
Washing
laundromat.
Yeah, the laundromat is such a hassle.
But I have great memories of the laundromat. And there what I said. Remember earlier I said that when people see actors on screen, they think they're automatically rich. I remember going to the laundromat in Dulwich in London, and not the expensive part, the poorer part. There always is. And I'd go there and I'd sit, and this woman was very familiar to me, and she was always sitting there doing her smalls. And I go, why is she so familiar? Have I met you? I said, have we met before? She says, I don't think so. I says, I'm sure your face is so familiar. She says, you probably know me from TV. I says, what? She says, the Young Ones. And when I was a teenager, Young Ones was a massive TV show. It had Rick Mayall in it. It had Don French, all these people that became absolutely fabulous and stuff and made millions. And then I realized who she was. She was just one of the characters that would appear in it, and she was on the bones of her ass, on the bones of her ass. And I remember seeing her much later in a newspaper how she'd lost everything and had no money and had to be on unemployment benefit.
Oh no.
And that's when I met her, when she was in that laundromat.
Yeah.
But she kept going. And you know what? I saw her just the other day on television. She's doing fine. So
Yeah.
she just held on to that dream. And you wouldn't know her. I don't know her name. I just remember that time. I
Yeah.
remember seeing movie stars everywhere on the tube going, "But that guy's just like me. Look at him. He's got the last train home and he's a buggered." Well, the thing was, I was young and I wasn't. I got the last train and I wasn't buggered. Sorry, can you say buggered in America? I'm always the same. I
I
was going,
don't
what have I
never
know
just said?
anyone that uses that word.
Yeah, I've never heard that word in my life.
I like it though.
I do like it.
I think it has very serious bad.
Oh,
That's the thing with words like that. They become so common you forget what they actually meant to begin with.
yeah.
You know, because people just say them all the time.
I don't know. I know a lot of words. I don't know that one.
Yeah, that's
You
not
don't know
one.
that one?
Yeah,
Oh, there you go. You can use it with impunity.
yeah,
It means you're tired. You're tired out. You can't go any further. It can't be done.
yeah.
All right. So there we go. That's the art agents. Is there any last questions before we go?
I don't think so.
No? So we'll go back to Ray. Let's just look under there, Ray and Val underneath the screen. Just make sure that you have a look at their plight and just share it if you can. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like I said, it's not about money, but if you can throw a few dollars that way, it all adds up. And there's what I've learned over time as well. I was always a good saver because I didn't need much. So I always put a little bit of money away. So if you're really cash strapped, try putting 10%. I know seems so old fashioned, but I put 10% away all the time without even thinking about the percent. I just went this much. I always put it away in a savings account. And here's the thing about being young. Albert Einstein said it. The seventh wonder of the world, he said, was compound interest. So if you put money away really young and just let it accumulate, you don't even have to work hard
Yeah.
because you've got the length of your life. It just does it in the background. If you can save early, you're going to be good for the end. All my wealth was made in the last 10 years because I had so many pitfalls. You know that guy going over the cliff? That was me 20 times, going over that cliff 20 times. And that Robert Cole. Was it
Yeah.
Robert Cole?
Thomas
Is he called
Cole.
Thomas Cole.
Thomas Cole.
That
was
reminds me of this book, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about because I read it. I don't know, like 8 years ago now, 10 years ago, somewhere, and I was waitressing. I had just dropped out of college or decided to drop out because I was like, this is way too expensive and the education sucks. And I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna keep drawing. And I was a waitress, and I was sitting up front, like doodling in my sketchbook. I always had the sketchbook on me, and it was like the middle of the day. It was slow, and this kind of short, like well dressed, like business fella kind of comes in, and we were cleaning off a table for him. And so he was like sitting there, and he notices me just like doodling in my book. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, drawing." And he tells me he just got back from, it might have been Australia or something, and I don't know, he listed off like 4 different things where he had just gone done this, that, and the other, and I was just getting like some like good vibes from this guy. I was like, how do you afford all that? I was like, how do you do that? And because I like what I had going through my head, I'm like, I can't do anything. And he's like, you got your little book there, or your notebook. He's like, write this down. I was like, what? He's like, I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, and then I was like, he's like, I'm gonna tell you about
This
this.
is a fable.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna tell you this book. And I was like, what book is it? He's like, no, you have to write it down, get your book out. And I was like, okay, like he had to tell me 3 times. I was like, fine, because I'm stubborn. Yeah. And he's like, it was A Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And
right.
Jeff Olson, I think, started like Big Brothers Big Sisters, some kind of charity thing. I don't know the full story behind this guy, but somehow this fella was affiliated with this guy. And he's like, I know that guy. He's like, read that book. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I got it. So I went home and I bought it. It's like $10 on Amazon, and a middle schooler could read it. It's a very simple book called The Slight Edge. And it's all about that. It's about the little things that you do every day and how they compound into greater things. Like, I remember one example it gives is like, you can eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's today. It's not going to kill you. If you do that every single day for 10 years, it's going to start building up.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, like, that's how success happens. And that's, like, how, like, and you'll be surprised. Like, you're never stagnant. You're always, like, moving in one direction or another. And sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. But eventually you get to a point where it snowballs one way or the other. You, like, fall off if you're not doing the right things. And, I don't know. I've read that one a few times. And I feel like it's probably impacted the way I've handled my things the past few years. So if anyone wants a good book recommendation,
Yeah, great book.
yeah,
Good book.
yeah, yeah,
It's the Robert Frost fork in the road thing, isn't it? I took the road less traveled. So he looks at two roads. One's clear path, everyone goes there. One was not so much, and he took that road. Now that road is the artist road. You know, it's full of weeds and stuff. It's gonna really be tough going. But if you don't take that road, then you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck going, what am I doing here? This road it's an easy road.
yeah,
But what's the end result of that road? What's the end result? It's not where you wanted to go. So we take that road less traveled. And that's why I said about the 10%, because that road is filled with poverty. And you might go, well, if it's filled with poverty, how can you save 10%? I have found that if you always save 10%, you never notice the 10% because you got used to 90%. And so your 90% is now 100%. Now, I'm not about economics or anything, but that to me was a very simple idea. And I stuck to it, and I always had it. And you go, well, I can't afford it, but you always can.
yeah.
It's like someone said once, I haven't got time for exercise, and make time.
Yeah.
And that was such a simple idea. Of course you can make time. How long have you sat sometimes looking at Instagram?
Yeah, I ain't got time to read. Like that's funny here.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a good person. You're only on Instagram for 20 minutes, right? I mean, that's a good person. That's somebody with discipline, right?
Yeah.
You're only on it 20 minutes. You could have been on the treadmill for 20 minutes, and that treadmill is going to help you live to 100 probably.
Yeah, it's
if you're
those little
treadmill.
things. It's the little things matter. Yeah.
20 minutes every day. I'm on the treadmill 20 minutes every day, and I feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
Now, I went home, and I saw people my age, and honestly, they looked like they were knackered.
Yeah, it's...
There you go, there's that. Buggered. They were buggered.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, I just hit 30, but you kind of turn around and you look at, like, your high school friends, and, like, some of them are doing some crazy stuff where you're, like, really impressed. And then other ones, you're like, oh my god, like, it's just a lesson. Those people serve a lesson, I guess. Like, don't do that.
And it's sad, because their 10% is a burger. They're 10, and I'm not being judgmental, but that's just that analogy. Their 10% is something not valuable.
Yeah.
And that 10% is not accumulating. It's actually driving them in the opposite direction where they want to be. So, I feel all judgmental now. I didn't mean that at all.
No, like, I don't judge people. Like, I think if I was in their shoes, who knows? Like, maybe I just got lucky. But, yeah. Like,
we can get lucky.
I don't try to judge.
Yeah, we can get lucky because I never liked fizzy drinks. The minute I had a fizzy drink, you may well give it to a native in the Amazon. I spat it straight out. And I've always felt that way about fizzy drinks. Yeah. So I've been very lucky, I don't have to cut out fizzy drinks. They just were poison to me from the beginning. So I'm very, very lucky. But we do need a little bit of discipline.
Yeah,
fizzy drinks should be banned. There's a whole aisle in the supermarket.
Soda's so bad for you.
Bad.
Soda makes such a big difference.
Yeah. You got to be healthy as an artist because we're sedentary. Look at us sitting here. We are not able to drink fizzy drinks and eat burgers all day, or we will be the shape of this chair and then the shape of the room.
Yeah.
So we got to be aware of that for artists. But there's that whole aisle, and I go, that whole aisle there should be banned. And it's just fizzy drinks and crisps all the way down.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. Yeah. There's the wrong accumulation. Are we going to end on that? Us wise folk.
Accumulate
wise food. Eat your veggies.
Yeah. If I had to say I had one thing that I've accumulated, like I said, I've just held on to my drawings, my sketchbooks, and just accumulated that. And somehow that's serving me. Maybe that's a happier note to...
Keep
drawing.
Yeah, keep drawing.
Keep drawing. That's all you can do. Keep
Yeah.
drawing, keep optimistic, and keep keep exploring the curiosity of it. Like I say, let's say you're a production designer and you're designing someone else's idea. While you're doing that, develop your own ideas off of that idea. But definitely don't close the door on that idea and just say, okay, I did that for whatever dollars an hour. Learn from that, learn from everything, but make sure that your ideas are what's prevalent. You got to make sure that the world ahead is for you. It's not for a corporation, it's for you. And it sounds like I'm demonizing corporations. They're hiring people, so go in there, collaborate with them, and come out with something yourself. And then one day you might be a friendlier corporation, the person that collaborates with everyone in there rather than be the boss of them. Should we leave it with that note?
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
note.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. And
Hey, this is great. Yeah, I don't have to do anything.
yeah, I can
I don't
stop.
have to do
Yeah,
anything.
I get to stop the stream today.
No, I was very selfish there. I ended up on my note only. What about Rachel and Melanie? Have you got words of wisdom for 2025? You're on the mark there,
Nothing
but
that
take your
would
time.
beat anything else I've already tried to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Melanie, any?
I think Rachel's on the mark. Just keep drawing, and whatever you're on the path of the manhood right now. In Thomas Cole's, in Thomas
right,
Cole's,
you are.
that Mulan
It's a
song.
little too like stark though. Like I want to see like he doesn't have any friends on that boat. It's kind of lonely.
Yeah, but yeah, well, he always has the angel in the corner watching out for him. So there's always someone there.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
someone that has your back.
Yeah, he
but,
needs a dog at least.
Yeah, but you gotta take a little bit of personal accountability.
Okay. I'll try.
Yes.
Here, I tell you what, I love your friendship. I really do. I don't want to use the word envy because that's wrong, but I would love to have a friendship like yours. You just come back from Florida, right?
Yeah, we
You
just
threw
got out of the
alligators and
woods.
stuff.
Yeah, we almost froze to death
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was it like? What prompted the trip?
Melanie leaving her job.
Yeah, it was kind of to celebrate me quitting my job.
You had your chance to go to the Frazetta Museum there next time you're down.
Where
That's
Florida
okay.
is so much bigger than I realized.
Which city is it in? The
It's in
Frazetta Museum?
Tampa.
Oh, that was the
in Tampa.
opposite shore. We were on the east side.
Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
10 hours to get to like the closest area of Florida from where we're at, and that's as far as I was willing to go, I guess.
One of my strongest memories of Florida was a bridge going across to an island, I think. It was the longest bridge I've ever seen in my life. Any idea what that was?
Which Brit?
Where is it in Florida?
I don't know. It was in Florida. It was a bridge. I went across a bridge and it was endless. And I went, this should be in the wonders of the world. It was such a
Yeah.
long bridge over a stretch of water. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, Florida is like 90% water, so it could be anywhere.
That was my first experience in Florida.
Yeah.
And
I went there
also,
for-
Chuck offered you a room if you want to be his friend
In Texas.
in Texas.
Chuck, as long as it's not a basement. Always beware. There's a tip for everyone for 25. Always beware of basements. Make
Oh,
sure you
yeah.
get the key before you go there. Make sure you get. You want to see my basement? Yeah, give me the key first, pal.
Yeah.
Let me have the key.
It's gotta be nice.
Look in your basement as long as I got the key. What a terrible thing to say at the end. What an awful thing. I'll tell you, you got to clip that out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta
we
Okay.
can we can cut it out. We got it.
Okay, we can cut it out.
All right,
well,
shall we?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck, by the way. I'd love to see you all. If I'm in America again, we gotta make something happen. I know, but it's such a big country, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like you
it's
say, just
huge.
even Florida, just moving across there is an absolutely gigantic country.
Yeah.
It's like people that say, I'm in Perth, should we catch up here in Australia? That's the same as going from London to...
Yeah,
Italy.
Australia's way bigger than you think too, because it's like the way a map is laid out. It's like
Yeah,
kind
they-
of gets
They
distorted.
make it really small.
Yeah,
they
and
make
then
it- it's huge.
it's actually way bigger than you would think.
I think it's the size of the US.
Yeah,
I think it
then-
is.
I think so
I think they
too.
fit it in like that. So basically, Perth is the same as Los Angeles is to New York. I think it's something like that.
Oh wow.
It's the biggest island in the world. But I don't know how that works because Africa's way bigger, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll have to look back into that again. There's something, it's the biggest something in the world anyway.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So,
Well, I think this
Kate
was
Mila
great.
Felcher from... Yes? Oh, sorry, I'm welcoming. What am I talking about? I was saying welcome.
Oh yeah, we need our goodbyes.
I'm supposed to do a goodbye.
Yeah.
Go on, Rachel. What were you going to say?
I was just saying this was great. Thank you for sitting down and talking to us for these couple hours, and we'll
Oh, thank you.
take the video down for a moment and upload it again tomorrow with the whatever we need to do to it.
Oh
And
yeah, and we should say to people, I've already put out an email to all my subscribers that this channel exists. So anyone watching, please ask other people to subscribe to it because it's a fledgling channel now. It's been
Sure.
relocated to start from scratch again, which is a tough call. So if you can do that, please subscribe. Just hit the little button. And also remember Ray at the bottom there and all our contact details. And of course, I have my first class of the year coming up on Saturday. Just go to my web store. Hold on, I'll have a look at it. Where are we? And while I'm doing that, Rachel and Melanie, if you wanna spruik
if
your
you
whatever you were doing next.
want to support my comic, check out my Patreon, which I should link down in the description. I'll get that. And I'm also doing like critique sessions. So every other week, it's on my Patreon. I'll meet with you for 1 hour to go over whatever you drew those couple of weeks. And so far, it's been going well. So if anyone is interested in that, you can find that on my Patreon as well.
I saw that, Rachel. How is it going?
It's going well. So far, I have one student, and he's solid. So it seems like a good match, and it's going well. So
Yeah,
keep doing that.
that's excellent.
Yeah,
And thanks for doing that, Rachel, because we need more and more teachers. We're losing teachers like by the billion. Teachers just aren't happening anymore. So, teaching is a gift. It's a real
yeah.
gift. If we don't have teachers, the future is very bleak. So well done for doing that. And like I say, I've got my thing coming up here. If you go to my web store, pjartworks.com, up in the corner there, Anatomy Style Workshop 25 in there. And I have students right now. They'll get a little password and they'll go in there. So that's happening on this Saturday. Well, the first recorded content this Saturday, and then I meet everyone the following Saturday for Q&A. All right, so you basically go up there, go to the online workshops, and you can get enroll in there. All right. Sorry we have to spruik. That's just the way of the world. And that, yeah, we have to get used to that as artists as well. We can't be shy. We have to say, well, here's what I do.
Yeah.
And, if you like it, come along. Come along for the ride. Melanie, anything from yourself that you want to
I don't
talk
have
about?
anything to financially support me, but just go ahead and follow my Instagram and
Okay.
support Rachel's Patreon and take Patrick's class.
You're so giving, Melanie. When you come to Australia, you won't have to put your hand in your pocket. That's what they say in Ireland. You won't have to put a hand in your pocket. I'll feed you. I'll make sure you don't go hungry. We'll go camping. I'm going to try and go camping soon now. I miss it so much.
Oh yeah, you should definitely go camping. It's a good time.
I've got
My
to
hair still smells like campfire.
Yeah.
I've washed
Oh, I wish I could smell. I love that smell.
Yeah.
Campfire hair. I love it. I love the smell of my clothes when I come back from camping.
it. Yeah, I
I
still
love the
it's-
dirt all
it
over the
whips.
car.
Yeah.
I try and hold on to that for as long as I can. We're not in nature enough.
Mm-mm.
I think it's
yeah, it was great.
that because we're artists that we actually really love it more because we're indoors all the time. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thank
We're
you.
going to cut out a ton of that stuff.
Okay.
Because that's just nonsense. It's nothing to do with
I'll
art.
figure out how to.
It's a launch from me. Good health to everyone. Until next time.